good to start a show with an apology. There we go. We have a special guest with us today. Dr. Drew Pinsky, board-certified internist and addiction medicine specialist, gained popular attention, hosting the show Loveline. You know that. And he's the author of 5 best-selling books, currently hosts a variety of programs, including Health Uncensored and the Dr. Drew podcast and Ask Dr. Drew. He's very busy. Please welcome back to the show, Dr. Drew.
Jimmy, good to be here. I love the apology. I look for every reason I can to apologize when I've gotten something wrong. And I think it's a good example for the world right now.
Oh, look at that. Okay. Well, the reason why I had you on is because you ran right into the YouTube censors. Now, I've run into them myself.
I'm sure.
So you said this weekend, YouTube creators accused me of spreading medical misinformation and took down 2 videos with an MD and a lawyer. I've been a board-certified physician for over 40 years, twice as long as YouTube's been around. So let's take a closer look at the timestamps that they say are harmful. But before I do that, I just want to show you that you can give misinformation about medicine as long as it's in the favor of big pharma.
If it goes a certain direction, that's what's in my thread. It goes a certain direction, you're good. So, and by the way, let's examine these things. I welcome this opportunity. And by the way, when I was watching your X thread today, they're like, I can't believe you're bringing in this vax pusher. Vax pusher? I'm a vax pusher? It was like, what? I've been bringing the alarm about myocarditis in adolescent males and excoriating the mandates for 2-3 years. But anyway, whatever.
My experience is that you've been on it. So let me just show you some of the stuff that pharma-funded media pushes and that it's okay. Just for instance.
And I know this sounds like an incremental piece of news, but sit on this for a second enough to absorb what this means. Right? What this means is that we can get there with we can end this thing. It means that instead of instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person to person, spreading and spreading, sickening some of them, but not all of them, and the ones that it doesn't sicken don't know they have it, and then they give it to even more people because they didn't recognize they were, right? Instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person, potentially mutating and becoming more virulent and drug resistant along the way, now we know that well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus does not infect them, the virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else. It cannot use a vaccinated person as a host to go get more people. That means the get us to the end of this.
Okay, so there's like at least 3 or 4 different things she said there that are not true and incorrect and would be considered misinformation.
Jimmy, I challenge you to find anything she said there that was accurate, that was true.
Well, she almost
From
said
top to bottom, that is nonsense,
yes.
Totally inaccurate, complete BS, and because it's delivered with smug certitude, I would say it's not only misinformation, it's done with intent, it's disinformation. It's both.
Both. She almost said that the virus can hop from person to person to person for a second. She almost said that, but she didn't. She said that if you get vaccinated, it can't, which we all know they didn't. That's not true. That's not true. But not only did she say that, by the way, she's like the Meryl Streep of misinformation. You see how she delivered it? That was really quite a performance.
But mind you, that is up on YouTube.
That's still up.
We put in our thread. That exists. No, that's not down-regulated. That's fact up-regulated.
That's right.
I'm sure.
So if you give misinformation in a certain direction, one that doesn't harm big pharma or the establishment narrative, you're allowed to spread that kind of misinformation. Just like when Dr. Fauci says about masks, which we're going to show you in a second. So there's myriad things that you can say that's not true, incorrect, would be considered misinformation and a conspiracy. But as long as it props up the establishment and big pharma, that's okay. And because I have a video that I've had on my Twitter feed and I played on the show, it shows Bill Gates, Dr. Fauci, the president of the United States, and everybody in between saying exactly what she just said. That if you get the the virus from, and that was never true because we know because of a hearing at the European Parliament when they questioned an executive from Pfizer, did you test to see if the transmission and contraction before you brought it to market, and said no, we didn't. So they were spreading this, and Pfizer didn't even test to see. And my guess is they didn't test. They probably did test to see, but the test didn't come out the way they like, so they buried that test. That's just a guess. I can't say that for certain.
That is potentially misinformation.
Yeah.
That one I can't substantiate. But I would, if it turned out to be true, it would not be that shocking.
Right. So I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying that could be a possibility. But
don't forget, in the Pfizer, look at Joseph Fryman's analysis of the Pfizer original data, including points. But they excluded anyone that they lost in the first 2 weeks after vaccination, which everyone knows if there's going to be a very serious, it's in those first 2 weeks. So if anybody died and didn't show up in follow-up, we didn't know it because they excluded everyone in that 2-week window that they lost.
So, and I would say 99% of the general public have no idea about what you just said, what I just said. They still believe this. They're still angry at people who didn't take the. They were told that the pandemic. Now, I had Dr. Robert Malone on my show early, right around the same time she said this, and he explained to me that you don't want to do. In fact, that the leaky can still transmit and contract the virus, and that you don't want to over-vaccinate during a pandemic like this because that will actually create more virulent strains. Instead of what they were saying. They're saying that if you get vaccinated, if the unvaccinated are the people who create more, that's not the case. And so everything she said was backwards. Everything she said, but that is still up. And you got taken down. And here's the first thing that you got taken down. Medical misinformation. They gave you the timestamp, which is very helpful.
Yes, it is, because you should play it. It's an interesting
I'll play
conversation.
Here it is.
Now, Dr. Victory is married. I came upon her in the last couple of years, and she's been helping out with some of these shows, and she was my guest on that day. Turned out, didn't know this, but she's married to my best friend from medical school. She's a board-certified ER doctor. She's a disaster preparedness expert. She's a public health official. She has public health training from Harvard. She's very smart and a very good doctor. Listen to what she said, that YouTube feels needs to be canceled.
And the real tragedy with this, Drew, is that the vast majority of the people who've been injured are young, healthy people who were under the age of 50, who had fundamentally zero risk from They all got 96%, 98% of the population has documented and well known that they had. These are people who would have done fine if they'd just been left alone. But instead, they were maimed, many of them against their better judgment, against their best, interest. They couldn't, they had to do it to keep their jobs, to go to school, to whatever it is. And so they were harmed.
So that was this part that they said you couldn't say on YouTube, right? That
would do egregious harm. Now, while on one hand, Rachel Maddow, I challenge you to find anything she said that was accurate and true. By the same token, I challenge you to find anything Dr. that is not accurate or true. Anything. One thing she said that was not simply and absolutely true.
So did they tell you because I actually, very recently, I find that the people at YouTube have been actually helpful. When they flag something that they don't want to let go out on their airwaves, they'll tell you, they'll give you a timestamp, and they'll say this is the thing. So did they tell you specifically what part of that?
I think we recently put up. First of all, we had to go to re-education camp. Are you aware of this?
Yes,
they sent me
I've done that.
they sent us to re-education camp, which was ridiculous. I was hoping it would actually be a place like a Maoist China where we could show up and I could take pictures and things. But I guess we're going that direction. And in there, we posted some of the things that they suggested would result in egregious harm. It's ridiculous.
So they don't know,
they don't have any doctors or anybody medical evaluating these things. So there's nobody for me to talk to. There's nobody making these judgments. I can't appeal to anybody because it's a bunch of IT clerks.
So they didn't tell you specifically what, they just gave you the timestamp. They didn't tell you specifically what part of that was the egregious part or the offending?
It was, I think they said it was particularly where she said, she has a colorful way of expressing herself. And I think the maiming got to them, that people were maimed. It's safe and effective. It doesn't maim.
Oh, well, I have to, first of all, let me just say, of course she's wrong, and that everything she said is incorrect, and that the YouTube scientists are the ones that I follow and the people at the FDA and the CDC, because they say the effective and people haven't been maimed. Of course, there's been side effects and adverse events that's been well documented, but of course, maiming, that's not that I know of. But so anyway, so yeah, we reject and denounce what she said. I'm just showing this as a news segment, so people know what not to say. That's what I'm saying.
Do you hear that, YouTube? Do you hear what Jimmy's saying?
I hope YouTube knows that I'm abiding by their rules, right? So that's why I wanted to zone in on exactly what she said that was wrong, to point it out to people that is wrong. Right. Nobody got maimed by the. If I take 2 or 3 every morning, they're fantastic. So I also. I just want to show you this. So you said, by the way, here's Dr. Fauci in 2023 insisting there's no doubt that masks work, despite the data and opposition from public health experts like epidemiologist Dr. Harvey Reich, a Yale professor, who told me, in reality, what you're talking about is putting up a chain link fence and hoping that it blocks mosquitoes. So the virus, the coronavirus, is smaller than the openings in those masks, meaning it can slip through that mask. In fact, well, here, let me just show you what Dr. Fauci actually said on CNN. This is all in your Twitter thread.
There is a perception out there by many, how many I don't know, that they don't work, and that the data concludes that they didn't work in the first go-round. Respond to that on masks.
So now he brought him on after the Cochrane study, which now the Cochrane study was done by one of the leading smarty pants guys when it comes to this stuff. I forget what's his name, but anyway, they did this metadata analysis, and they found that there was no reduction in infection of people who wore masks on mass, and they didn't, right? And so that was supposed to be case closed on the mask thing. So here is Shmerkanis, to his credit, on CNN, which I never thought I'd see this happen, confronting Dr. Fauci with the science, because he had told him about the study I just told you about. And watch what Dr. Fauci says to this.
Yeah, well, that's not so. I mean, when you're talking about at the population level, that the data are less strong than knowing that if you look on a situation.
So what he's using slippery, mealy-mouthed criminal words, right? So
he's twisting himself into a pretzel.
Yeah, he's saying if you look at population level, he's saying
which is what this was.
This
was a meta-analysis. The question was, does masking work? Answer: no. Thank you, Dr. Fauci.
So he said, well, if you look at the population, I mean, if you look at the tests, if you look at the trials, and we look at the data, no, it doesn't work. If you have a group of people who wear masks and a group of people who don't, no, it doesn't. He uses the term population level. Okay, so he's trying to use terms that confuse people, and he's saying the data is less strong, meaning it's not strong, meaning that the data shows it doesn't work. But he chooses to say it's less strong, which is a very misleading way to talk about this, because what he's doing right here is trying to mislead people. And he's doing it. Okay, so here we go.
As an individual protecting themselves or protecting them from spreading it, there's no doubt that masks work.
So he's saying, but on an individual level, there's no doubt, he's saying, that masks work. So they don't work if you actually do a random control trial. They don't work if you look at the data. They don't work if you look at a group of people who wear masks and a group of people who don't. It doesn't work at that. But individually, it will work, which makes absolutely zero sense And
let me tell you what he's leaning on, which is that if you have a perfectly fitted N95 mask with no leaks anywhere,
right.
Your glasses don't steam up when you're breathing, no leaks, and you wear it 100% of the time. You never breathe, you never eat, you never do anything around other people. Well, that might have a little something. But the reality of the human being is nobody ever wears the mask properly or ever wears it 100% of the time. Mask up between bites, everybody. Mask up between bites, which is one of the most insane statements of all time. And be super clear, surgical mask, cloth mask, zero efficacy. It doesn't distinguish that.
So N95 masks, there is a certain amount of protection that you can get from them if you do exactly what you said. You get it fitted, and then you wear it so tight that when you take it off, it literally leaves a mark on your face.
Because these are aerosol respiratory viruses.
Right.
Anything sends it out 60 feet, anything, and in. And it's not spit, it's not bacteria in your mouth that the surgeon is trying to protect from the surgical field. It's an aerosolized respiratory virus. And the masks that people wear in the surgical suites, they're not worrying about respiratory viruses. They're worrying about bacteria.
So, okay, let's see what else he has to say here.
Different studies give different percentages of advantage of wearing it, but there's no doubt that the weight of the studies, and there have been many studies, indicate the benefit of wearing masks.
So that's still up on YouTube, I'm sure, and that is categorically false.
And so here, Dr. Kevin Bass says, this is nonsense, and here's why. To do science on masks, you have a masked group and you have an unmasked group. You compare the rate of infection in each group. This is called a randomized trial. This is how science is done. If the rate of infection is the same, then masks don't work. That was what the studies on masks actually showed. So there's no difference. Now, there is simply no such thing as scientific studies showing that masks work at an individual level. We just talked about that N95. Okay. And now so here is one more video where Dr. Fauci's confronted him. So the reason I'm showing you this is to show you that certain misinformation is okay. If it's misinformation that is endorsed by the establishment and big pharma, then it's okay. So here's
official misinformation, Jimmy. Official misinformation.
So here's he's being asked about masks once again, and here's what he says this time.
CDC is advising all Americans now to wear a cloth mask, but not the surgical mask. Save those for the healthcare officials. Why the change now? Because most of us have been walking around going to the grocery store not wearing a mask because that was the original recommendation.
Well, we have to make sure we don't forget that the most important thing is to keep this 6-foot physical distance from individuals.
So now you
which
just
they made up. The 6 feet is made up out of thin air.
So Dr. Fauci originally said at the beginning on 60 Minutes, he said, don't wear masks. He goes, it might make you feel better, but it's not providing the protection you think it does. In fact, it actually has negative consequences because you start touching your face and so it's bad, right? And then for some reason, they flipped on that and want everybody to start wearing masks. Now, my theory is why Dr. Fauci flipped on that was because I know that Dr. Fauci likes to use fear to manipulate people. And if everybody's walking around wearing a mask, it's going to create a sense of fear around people that there's something we need to be afraid of, even though he was telling the truth when he said masks don't work on 60 Minutes at the beginning of and then he flipped. And I think he flipped because he was trying to do everything to manipulate people into taking an emergency use authorized product that Big Pharma wanted us to take. That's just a theory. There's no way I can prove it, but that's my theory because he did flip on that. And now we're showing you that he's now making stuff up. So what he just said there about, well, the most important thing is to keep 6 feet. Now, why do I say he made that up? Because he made it up. Here's the Daily Mail revealed Dr. Fauci confesses that he made up the 6 feet social distancing and masking. He said he doesn't.
Redfield and Count Francis Collins have confirmed that, as well as other people I've interviewed who were in the room when this was decided. Thin air. They were thinking it was real. They were coming to terms with the fact that it was probably 30 to 60 feet, but they couldn't get people to comply with that. So they went, all right, just 6 feet.
The
world complied with that too. The world. I was in France during COVID. Paris, 6 foot distancing there too was unbelievable.
I still go in certain airports. They have 6 foot on the floor. Anyway, here is. He also said he was unaware of studies recommending masks for kids, meaning there aren't any.
No, there were never anything, nothing ever. But we were only one of, I think, 2 countries in the world that were mandating masking little kids, which was abuse. We damaged a generation. It was obvious. This is what was so upsetting to me. I kept saying 8 to 15-year-olds are going to be damaged. Their mental health is going to be damaged forever. And now they will tell you they were damaged. Not little did I know we were also going to damage 18 to 30-year-olds who really have just been harmed by this. And I hope they all are. If they are not, that they at least become pissed at what was done with them. It was inexcusable.
Well,
the government did that to you.
Dr. Fauci also, I don't have the video of this, but he did claim that knit condoms worked, but only on Christmas. Anyway, but here he is going to be confronted with this. So she's going to confront him at a congressional hearing, and he's going to admit that the 6 foot distancing rule, which he just said was the most important thing, even more important than masks. He just said that. He's now going to admit that.
Let me stop you. One thing that I became aware of right about the time that this was all going on when they were getting into their mask mandates, it became very clear that nasal lavage would be much more effective than masking in terms of reducing transmission of this virus.
What does that mean, nasal lavage?
Saline. What's that?
Did you mean just squirting your nose with saline?
You're getting three times a day nasal lavage would dramatically reduce transmission. And with betadine, it dramatically reduces it even further. And we would have gotten taken off to YouTube for saying that at the time.
So here he is being confronted, and he's going to try to pretend like he didn't make that up. Watch this.
You also represent the type of science where you confess that you made up the including 6 feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made up. You
I
made it
didn't
up as
say
you went.
I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But
and
it just appeared
with both hands.
So when he says this about masks.
But not the surgical mask. Save those for the healthcare officials. Why the change now? Because most of us have been walking around going to the grocery store not wearing masks because that was the original recommendation.
Well, we have to make sure we don't forget that the most important thing is to keep this 6-foot physical distance from individuals.
So now he's now saying that's not based in science and that it just appeared. It just appeared and then he repeated it and said it's the most important thing. Isn't that amazing, Doctor?
It's amazing. It's amazing that he knew it was the most important thing, and yet it had just appeared.
It just appeared.
Yeah. It appeared because Francis Collins made it up, and and Redfield has said the same thing. He was head of the CDC that they never should have done that. It was a mistake. It was a complete fabrication. How Fauci didn't know it came from those guys is astonishing, and why he was such an enthusiast for it is even more astonishing. By the way, the term social distancing really didn't exist until this pandemic. It's a new term.
Yeah. And I just want to, I just remember all the people at grocery stores picking fights over this, like they were defending society.
Yes.
And they were just really moral do-gooders who were just waiting for their entire life for the authority to give them permission to crack down on other people.
So, Jimmy, that is a really important point. I think everybody, the way mass formations occur, about 5 to 10% of the humans go, hey, this is BS, something's wrong here. About 70% look around and go, I just want to get on with my life. Leave me be, I'll comply, whatever. And 20% are evangelists and are immediately hypnotized by the whole thing. If you are someone that reported your neighbors for having a barbecue, if you were somebody who was yelling at somebody in a hardware store for not wearing a mask, if you were someone fighting because somebody was too close and you started swinging at them, you need to examine yourself, because everybody believes if they were in Germany in 1935, they would try to kill Hitler. But you, the person Jimmy just described, would be a prison guard. I guarantee you. And you need to know that about yourself. It's an important thing, and do not let it happen next time.
That is the little fascist inside people came out during
the communist, the fascist, whatever that 20% is of hypnotized. I'm reading a book called The True Believer. I thought this shit ended in the 20th century. We said it was writ large. I thought, okay, these mass formations, the Jacobins sort of invented it, and we're done with this now. Turns out this always happens. The witch hunts, it always happens. Humans have a tendency to be this way. And it breaks down the same way all the time. And that 20% is the true believer, and you need to learn about true believers. And if you're one of them, you need to watch yourself, because you will get swept into something that you will not be proud of.
Well, it lent itself to, I lament comedians, right? So I was always so proud, or seriously proud, to be part of the comedy brotherhood or whatever you want to call it. But to see comedian after comedian get on stage, comedians I've respected for 20 years, get on stage and shame people for trying to get informed about an experimental medical treatment that they were being forced to take or they would lose their job. And they would say, don't do your own research. And they'd say, what are you? You're just a slob sitting on your couch in your underwear. First of all, I'm wearing underwear all the time. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Why people keep saying that. You're probably wearing underwear when you told me not to do my own research. But the point is, doing your own research just meant that you're reading, right? I was in my own underwear when I figured out that masks didn't work. I was in my own underwear when I figured out that the virus actually came from a lab, and it didn't make me a racist to say so, and that Fauci tried to cover that up. It didn't make me I was in my underwear when I figured out that herd immunity and that he was lying about herd immunity and that natural immunity is a real thing. I was in my underwear when I figured out all that stuff. And I figured out that lockdowns didn't work and there was no science behind that. In fact, they had negative consequences. I was in my underwear when I figured out all that stuff. And so this whole thing, don't do your own research. That's what that led to. It led to comedians who are supposed to be professional contrarians who poke holes in the status quo became mouthpieces for the establishment and professional managerial class enforcers of the narrative. And they shamed you if you wanted to think for yourself, because you're too dumb to think for yourself. You're supposed to let an expert. You're supposed to trust the science. You don't know
how the journalist. How about the New York Times editorial board mandating public health policy? Who the F are they to have an opinion about physicians and public policy? They should shut the hell up. And as long as we're taking aim at each other's profession, the physician part was egregious for many, many reasons. But one of the most egregious was we couldn't give informed consent to our patients, and doctors did that without consideration or concern. I was profoundly, to this day, when patients, older, 90, 100-year-old patients ask me, should I take a booster? I tell them, I don't know, because we don't have the data. That's the informed consent.
You don't think that doing a study on 12 mice is not adequate to,
for a variant that left us 18 months ago?
And I try to tell people when I have disagreement, when they disagree with me about all this stuff, or the boosters, or say, do you, like I saw Martina Navratilova tweet out just the other day that I just got my flu. I'm not taking any chances. And I'm like, good for you. You are taking chances. And
That's true.
Just so you know that the number 1 and 2 person in charge of the at the FDA resigned over the booster program, just so you know. And then what did they do? Did they reevaluate? No, they just got 2 more lackeys, go-alongs, to take their place, because the people who stood up against the booster program resigned over it. Okay, people don't know that. Of course, that's not going to get reported.
No, Jimmy, those two need to come. It seems to me those two they were apparently excellent scientists. I remember the story when it happened. I was aware of it, and those two need to resurface, and they need to tell their story. Somebody's got to find them and get their story. I don't know why they've been so quiet. I believe they have an ethical obligation to tell their story. Maybe the new administration they will.
I'm sure they had to. I'm pretty sure I have a feeling of why they're not speaking out more.
Well, they probably decided a bunch of non-disclosure stuff
yes.
in order to get out.
So. You're going to sign this non-disclosure. Either your signature or your brains are going to be on this non-disclosure, all right? So we all know how big pharma is. So there's even more to this. So you brought on a lawyer, right? And at 38, so they
great guy, brilliant lawyer. He was defending some people who had some, and he made some sort of sweeping generalities about how many people he thought had been harmed by this. I don't think his numbers were correct. I didn't say, oh, you're absolutely right, sir. I thought it was, I'm not sure, but I didn't get into confronting him. Do you have the tape?
So yeah, so here's what he said. Now, keep in mind, this is this guy's opinion. This is not
his experience.
FDA, CDC, certainly not Fauci, and it's certainly not YouTube science. This is this guy's experience and opinion, which I know has got to be wrong. But here, let me play it for you anyway.
I believe about 500,000 people have died from. You're currently representing people. One of my clients, unfortunately, is extremely ill. Her spinal cord has been damaged. Her diaphragm no longer works properly. She's having trouble breathing, and she's 40 years old, and she took it because of her job. That's a lady named Danny Baker, by the way. She goes by Coerced Nurse on Twitter, and she's a fantastic client to have, and we're going to try to make a point with that.
Now, of course, that's misinformation. That can't possibly be true because of effective, and it's been tested.
Egregious harm to let this man speak.
Yeah, so
he seems like somebody who's intent on hurting people.
So what? So I'm rejecting and denouncing what he's saying. If YouTube is listening, and I know they are, you say it's not medical misinformation for someone to state their belief that a large number of people were harmed by a medical product or a study. That is his opinion based on evidence from his cases. Well, that is not okay. So you stand by that, Dr. True?
It's not okay. I must be in error.
You must be in error.
I don't want to affirm that on your show.
And so because you didn't adequately push back against him when he was spreading that kind of,
I don't think that would have helped. I really don't think it would have helped.
Well, hopefully it's helping because that's what I'm doing.
You're very categorical about it, so I wouldn't have been quite so firm.
I mean, it's unfortunate you didn't push back on his crazy talk, and because that's what that is. But so when you didn't push back, they made you go to YouTube training school, right? I must attend YouTube's re-education training and be a good boy for 90 days, or else they will delete my channel and its 1,000+ videos. Now, I've had to do that before, and I did it because they will delete your channel if you don't do it.
Well, we put up some of the questions there. Look at that. The one on the right is one I like.
Tammy posts a video after getting the influenza. She shares that she became permanently paralyzed after receiving her seasonal influenza shot. In the video, she warns others not to get the influenza because you're all going to suffer the same way I did. Is this a violation? Yes. I would say yes, that is a violation. That you can't. That's not true, right? What?
But think about they're using an example of someone's own personal medical experience, misadventure, and you want to create a group of evangelists that are paranoid. You silence somebody like that because she's going to find other ways to get people sort of on her team. And if it looks like somebody's silencing her, it's a way to fuel paranoia, as opposed to letting her post her damn opinion and her experience and describe it, and have people interact with her and go, well, it's very rare. Maybe it's terrible to happen to you. Okay, that would mitigate it. That would put it in context. Instead, silence, misinformation. The state has spoken.
If you read their intent, they say YouTube doesn't allow content that poses a serious risk or of egregious harm by spreading medical misinformation that contradicts local health authorities or the World Health Organization guidance about specific health conditions and substances. The policy includes the following. So,
World Health Organization people,
which is a criminal organization.
Go off when you hear that. I went down a rabbit hole with the hepatitis B. I've been telling people
it's important you give that to babies.
Well, I was part of the research of the early hepatitis B in the early 80s, and we were concerned with maternal fetal transmission of hepatitis B in China, where it was common. Now it only happens in the setting of IV drug use. And do you think for a second that in this country, an IV drug user wouldn't be tested for hepatitis B, or that her child wouldn't get hepatitis B? Had been tested as soon as the child emerged. But in the name of equity, the World Health Organization mandate that every child, as they come out of the birth canal, gets the hepatitis B. I can think of no indication for it. None. It's the most absurd thing in the world. 3-part. And nobody is getting maternal fetal. There's like 1,200 cases of hepatitis B in the country every year, and it's all in drug users. And believe me, if they were pregnant, we would be all over that. Yes, use the everybody. Oh my God, what a mess.
Well, did you ever think that maybe there's only 1,200 cases of it? It's because everybody got their...
But that's the point. We did it. We vaccinated everybody. We vaccinated healthcare workers, and we needed it, and we took it. But babies in the first hours of life, this is bizarre.
Well, it's not bizarre to the FDA or the CDC, and that's who I have to go with there at the YouTube. So it makes sense to me. You are wrong once again. You say these are you've had strikes before, and tell people what happened the first time.
My previous strikes were typically during where we dared to have conversation about alternative practices for treatment of. We ended up having to convert our conversations in such a way that we would say I word or H word if we were going to talk about ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. Because if those words were spoken, even if I were to say, I really don't think these things are effective. I know people are using it, but I've just not seen it be very good. Just the word out. That's it. You're done.
Yeah, we couldn't say ivermectin. That was for sure. And I certainly couldn't say that it treated the FDA and the CDC says it doesn't. And so I can't contradict them or the scientists at YouTube. But so you called them up when you got flagged by talking about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, and you had a conversation with them?
It took a long time. We had multiple attempts at getting to a human being. That was the hard part. And once we got to human being and explained that these are physicians and professionals discussing pros and cons, it's not evangelical one way or the other. It's just we're trying to get to the truth. And I talked to a lot of silenced people like McCullough and RFK Jr. First time I spoke to him, he goes, "You're very courageous to speak to me." And I said, "For an attorney and a doctor to speak publicly, that takes courage. We are in big trouble." And we were. He sort of tipped me off 3 years ago that things were not as I thought they were. In any event, and they would every time they would let us off the hook. And we told them we'll play by the rules. We just got to know what the rules are, and we need to understand why and what the rationale is for them. But inevitably, they just tune up the algorithm, and getting to a human being is almost impossible. Which is why we went on X this time, and they because Elon was retweeting all of my stuff this time. Oh well, now they immediately reversed everything without us talking to them. They go, "Oh, I guess you're right."
So this has been reversed?
Yes.
You're kidding.
Shocking, Jimmy.
So the stuff that I'm playing right now, I don't have to do the song and dance over?
Well, it still is egregious misinformation, but they're not willing to stand by that right now.
And that's because Elon Musk got involved. That's probably it looks like it anyway. So I like what you say here though at the bottom. You wanted to talk to you said I wanted to have a clinical conversation with the person on YouTube side who was judging his interviews.
Yeah, I want to talk to a clinician. I want to talk to a scientist. I want to talk to a doctor.
And you
give
said,
me a doctor to speak to understand, so I can appeal my case, and I can understand your position. There is no doctor. There is no scientist. There's nobody like that over there. Nothing. There's a bunch of IT clerks. That's it. That's it.
So
nobody.
They don't have a physician on their mind?
No, there's nobody like that over there. Nothing like that they have on staff.
So to me, that's the biggest. So I remember there was a hearing when Twitter was being raked over the coals in front of Congress, and the woman Vijay or whatever her name was, they kept saying that you censored Dr. Bhattacharya. He's a leading guy in his field from Stanford. You did this to Dr. McCullough, one of the most cited doctors in the world. You did it to Dr. Rob Malone, who has 5 patents on. And you did. Do you have a medical? They're like, no. Did you go to medical school? No. But you are censoring the leading guys in their field. And they're like, yeah, we are. And so that's what this reminded me of when you made this point, that I wanted to talk to somebody at YouTube who's a clinician, and that person doesn't exist.
No, listen, when I first met Jay Bhattacharya, which was now about 3 or 4 years ago, I just thought, oh my God, this is the guy they're choosing to silence and attack and take what do they call it, a devastating takedown, according to Fauci or Collins or one of these guys. And I thought this guy is a consummate professional. He's a brilliant professor. He's an extraordinary human being. This is their target. And the fact that he now is going to head up the NIH is a level of poetic, it's Shakespearean. I never imagined we'd be here. And when he told me that he was being considered, I almost cried, because he deserves that position, and it's a complete reversal of this nonsense.
That is going to be a sea change. It's very akin to the spies and the spooks inside the deep state following Tulsi Gabbard around through airports and putting her on the terrorist watch list, and then she becoming the head of the director of national intelligence. That it's like something you see in a book. You wouldn't believe it, or a movie. It's really so. It happened with Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. It's happened with Tulsi Gabbard. It's now going to happen with RFK Jr. So there is a sea change happening, and these are all positive things. And I just glad that you went to YouTube re-education camp, because if people don't know what happens there is they remove the part of your brain that identifies BS and they replace it with cats bopping their head to the latest beats. Anyway, so it works. I'm saying it works. So
thank goodness troublemakers like me are brought to heel.
Yes, anyway, I appreciate you making time to come on and talk about this. I think this is important. Facebook has now decided, Zuckerberg has decided to not to hook up with fact checkers. Yes. So they're not fact checkers. And I have to remind people that if you go to PolitiFact or you go to Fact Check, whatever, they are people taking money from billionaires that have a political axe to grind, and they have a narrative they want to spread. So lots of the people that I knew in comedy in Hollywood for 20 years think I'm a piece of garbage now, because Facebook, they all go on Facebook, right? Because I'm in that age demographic. They all go on Facebook, and they would see every time Facebook would, this is bad misinformation that I was trying to spread on, and they thought I was a grifter spreading misinformation, but nothing I ever put up on Facebook was incorrect. In fact, I would make fun of their fact checks and show that they're quibbling with my headline. That almost every one of their fact checks was them quibbling with my headline, or saying that I said something I didn't say.
Yep.
Like, for instance, I said there was a chip inside the said that. They said I said that. No, what I did was I reported on Anthony Bourla, the head of Pfizer, saying that they put a chip in a medicine that people take. And you can imagine the compliance, that they can tell if you took it or not. And I reported that, and they pretended I said something else. So the fact checkers are not fact checkers. They are political hacks. And what Zuckerberg hasn't done is then taken time to apologize to people like me, whose reputation he's ruined and dragged through the mud with people who've known me most of my life in Hollywood. And now I'll never get those people back. I'll never get them to listen, because Facebook said something. And so, go ahead.
If you look at my original thread on the YouTube thing, it was actually Zuckerberg that sort of influenced or maybe even inspired us to go forward, because our opening statement is, hey, come along with the change, come along with the movement towards freedom again in this country, and towards the ethics and the values of our founding principles, upon which free speech is numero uno. And that was sort of what our appeal was. Come on, get with it, YouTube. Everyone else is coming along. Why not you? Well, we'll see.
We'll see. Well, what we need is the Twitter files for YouTube. That would be fantastic. Yes. And, you know, I wish Zuckerberg would turn over, just like Elon Musk did, to journalists. Here's all our conversations with the Biden administration, the FBI, and the people who wanted to censor you, the people over at the FDA and the CDC and Health and Human Services. Here's all our emails. Here's what actually happened. But now we got to tune into Joe Rogan to hear what he says they said. And it would be very helpful. He's not going to do that. I think Zuckerberg's a very slippery cat, and just like Dr. Fauci, very slippery. But anyway, at least he's getting away from working with fake fact checkers after my reputation is now ruined. Now, you know, luckily they have a harder time discrediting you than they do me, right? Because you're an actually accredited physician, you have a history.
Yeah, but I would argue that you have prevailed, you have persevered, and there's a new age ahead upon which new relationships will be built that will be more genuine and more appreciative of the effort you've made.
Fingers crossed. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I include you in that group of new friends, and I'm very grateful for your courage and for your friendship. It's been really good, nice getting to know you and your wife.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay, well, Dr. Drew, everybody check out all his shows. You're a very busy man. The Dr. Drew podcast, Ask Dr. Drew, Health Uncensored, which is still on. You're still on YouTube, so that's a big deal. So
I'm there at the moment. We're also on Rumble and everything else, and we're even trying to jack up our Facebook presence if he's really serious about it. Well, let's see if we can get going there too. But X has been a major outlet for us, and so we appreciate everyone over there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, a lot of the other social media platforms are afraid of X because X is actually giving you a modicum of free speech, and that they don't allow, and they're now the #1 news site in the world. So you know what I found out? Get this, just before I let you go, that of course the Washington Post numbers are down and New York Times numbers are down, and because they've been lied to. They lied to them about Russiagate, and they lied to them about downs, and they lied to them about a myriad of things. Most recently, that Joe Biden was sharp and effective. They did that for 4 straight years, and people aren't reading or going. The number 1 and 2 reason why people subscribe to the New York Times is so they can do their crossword puzzle and Wordle. Did you? I don't know. My producer told me that the other day. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, that's the 2 reasons why people.
That's expensive. That's an expensive hobby.
I agree.
I used to love the New York Times. I used to get the LA Times, New York Times, read them both every day. And then then they did a few stories on me in the LA Times, and I realized how much they distort the truth. And I started seeing nothing that I could even relate to in this. So I canceled the LA Times, and then all of a sudden New York Times was the same thing. Very sad. It's very sad.
Yeah. And once you're a part of a news story, you realize how much the news isn't the news.
It's called the Gell-Mann amnesia. You ever heard of that?
No.
Oh, it's a term. It's about a physicist named Dr. Gell-Mann who looked at the paper, and when he'd see stories on physics, which is something he knew well, he'd go, God, they get it so wrong. They're distorting. They're just ridiculous. And then he went on to assume that all the other complicated stories about economics and the international scene were true. That's called Gell-Mann amnesia. It's all wrong. It's all false, and it's never been worse.
It's never been worse. And a big problem was in 1996 when Bill Clinton took us from 50 giant media companies down to just 6. So we used to have 50 media companies. We should have had 150, but we had 50, and they were giant themselves. And then Bill Clinton passed the Telecommunications Act, and that brought us down to just 6. And the reasoning they used was because there was this new thing called the internet, and now everybody's going to have a voice. Well, we see what happens, right? So those same controlling billionaire class interests are controlling our voice on social media and YouTube. And so thank God there's places that we can go to now, like Twitter and Rumble, and hopefully there'll be more places like that I don't have to twist myself in a pretzel to cover a story like this. Right. Okay, Dr. Drew, thank you very much, brother. See you soon.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Bye-bye. Okay, over to Steph.
Do we have to go to a quick break because we're going to bring on Danny?
We got to bring on our next guest. So let's go to a break, and we're going to get Danny Haifong on to talk about TikTok, of all things. So RFK Jr. once said, not a single one of these 72 vaccines now administered to our children have ever been tested against a placebo.
So not a single one of the vaccines, the 72 vaccines now administered to our children, have ever been tested against a placebo. And I, in fact, sued HHS in 2016 and said, show me any placebo studies that you have for any vaccines. And they were unable to do so. None of them have been tested. And you don't have to sue them like I did. Anybody can go on their cell phone and look up manufacturer's insert, hepatitis B vaccine, Gardasil vaccine, polio vaccine. Do you know how many days the current polio vaccine, do you know how many days it was safety tested for, Alan? 48 hours. The hepatitis B vaccine, the Glaxo version, was 4 days. The Merck version, 5 days. That means that if the baby they gave that to had a seizure on day 6, it never happened. If the baby died on day 6, it never happened. If the baby got food allergies that were diagnosed 2 years later, it never happened. If the baby got autism, which is not diagnosed till 4 years of age, 4.2 years of age, it never happened. Autoimmune diseases, you cannot see those if you have these short-term studies, and you can't see any risk if you don't test against a placebo. And my question is, nobody knows, because of that, nobody knows the risk profile for any vaccine that is currently on the schedule. And that means nobody can say with any scientific certainty that that vaccine is averting more injuries and deaths than it's causing. And my question is, how in the heck can we be mandating to children that they take a medical product for which we do not know the risk. And to me, that is criminal.
Wow. He's now the what is it? The Secretary of Health and Human Services. Now, his FDA puts up placebo testing requirements for new potentially hitting makers the hardest.
Let's hope.
No kidding. No kidding. Amid a slew of recent shakeups at the FDA, including the agency's reduction in force and high-profile leadership exits, the regulator is ushering in radical changes to how it signs off on new. Under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, all new undergo safety testing in placebo-controlled trials prior to licensure. A radical departure from past practices, the Department of Health and Human Services said in a statement to CNN. It isn't immediately clear which new affected by the policy, flu, and are updated annually to match the latest strains and variants, so manufacturers do indeed roll out new shots based on their existing platforms. For novel against completely new viral targets, placebo testing is a regular part of the R&D and regulatory review process. Really? Because it sounds like it wasn't. That was his problem. And why would he have to roll out new regulations if they're already doing it? So I'm a little skeptical. I'm a little skeptical of this.
72.
Yeah. An HHS official told CNN the new policy. I wonder how much money CNN gets from Big Pharma. I'm going to guess about 70% of their budget.
Yeah.
An HHS official told CNN the new policy pertains to flu. Flu shots have been tried and tested for decades. Yeah. While go see our other video we did on the flu. Flu shots have been fake. Maybe we can put a link underneath this to our last flu. The flu shots have been, there's a word called negative efficacy comes up. I don't know if you've heard of it.
That's what we got after we tried and tested them. We learned they have negative efficacy.
Flu shots have been tried and tested for decades, while new and must have more gold standard science to ensure safety and efficacy for the public.
You'd think.
For years now, the FDA is allowed. I mean, the FDA, which is now which was at the time run by people who are now getting millions of dollars from Pfizer as they sit on their board. I mean, like those people? For years now, the FDA has allowed factors to leverage prior clinical efficacy data rather than results from new trials when routinely, it's routine. There's no long-term studies on the, but they call it routine.
No, there are. They just did it directly on you.
Yes, that's right.
And you don't get to see the results, but they are doing the experiments on your kids.
When routinely updating their shots to match the latest variants. When the FDA, this is how CNN talks. When the FDA endorsed updated last summer, for example, the agency said it considered manufacturing and non-clinical data.
What?
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 I don't even. You tell me what that means. Last year, FDA advisors recommended variants for the updated shots in June, and the agency endorsed the tweaked August. It's not immediately clear. Do people still take boosters? Do they actually do that?
And who's still wearing a mask besides fat people who work at the airport? Anyone?
It's not immediately clear whether agency's new requirement in order to release their updated time virus circulation to so they don't have the time. They don't have the time to do it.
Take that crap ever again. Even people that believed in it ain't going to take it no more. They're just not going to admit they're wrong, but they're not taking that shit again.
Kurt, I have to remind you that the vaccine is effective. And it will keep you from being seriously ill, hospitalized, or dead. You know this.
I thought Susan's dead.
Speaking with CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Major Garrett earlier this week, FDA Commissioner Marty McIlhany said the FDA has taken a look at whether to approve the new set of shots this year. While the statement alone raised some eyebrows, McIlhany went on to add that companies are being asked to run a basic clinical study so we can educate the population and have information to work with. Could you just do a basic study?
No.
Before that interview, Novavax, it's a bad idea to put the word no in the name of your... Novavax had a high-profile regulatory mix-up. Oh, no kidding. They had a mix-up with its...
Tell us by mistake. That was the mix-up?
With its... The company believed, and still does, that its shot was ready for approval by April 1st. When the date came and went with no action from the FDA, reports emerged that the agency had issued a last-minute request for more data. Kari commented on Twitter that the company was trying to introduce a new product with the study of a different product from 2021. He added,
how they usually do.
He added that the Trump administration would prioritize the gold standard. I love how the CNN says the company believed, and they still do.
Oh, well, that's science. Your beliefs, your inside Gnostic beliefs.
Why don't you just quote their feelings? You know, the pharma company.
You know, Big Pharma's truth is that it was tested. Manufacturing, non-clinically.
I mean, the flu shots are the gold standard, much the same way Boeing airline is the gold standard for flight safety. Am I right?
For great doors on planes.
Hi, everybody. We have special guests with us. Sarah Shujujian is a I said it right? Shujunian, okay, is a registered practical nurse from Toronto, who has been involved in advocating for patient well-being, particularly in long-term care settings. Guess what she did? She founded Nurses Against Lockdowns, which then merged into Canadian Frontline Nurses. So they're not good citizens. She is also the founder of Lighting Up Dark Corners, an organization that empowers survivors of child sexual abuse and domestic violence to heal and to rise above their trauma. Shujunian has faced disciplinary hearings, no kidding, and termination from her nursing position due to her outspoken criticism of COVID-19 related policies. Wow. Well, I don't know what you're probably doing your own research. Please welcome to the show, Sarah Shujunian.
Thank you so much for having me.
So
I'm very humbled to be here.
Tell me about your story and as a nurse, you decided to what did you start noticing, and what made you decide to organize Nurses Against Lockdowns?
Yes. So first of all, I'm not a nurse anymore. So I'm just going to put that out there because my college might be like, she's still saying she's a nurse, and get me on another disciplinary hearing for that. So, yeah, I don't know if you want me to start. My story can start in the nursing home, but really, I started seeing things back in 2017 when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. So I don't know if you want me to go a little bit back.
Oh, really? What happened?
Yeah, so for those of you so I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2017. It took the medical industry like over a year to figure out what was going on with me. And for those of you who don't know, fibromyalgia is basically you feel the big general symptoms is that you feel exhaustion and severe nerve pain, widespread pain for over 6 months. But all the other symptoms in the book can also be tied to fibromyalgia. And so what happens is that there's no testing for it. The medical industry doesn't really know what it is. And so it's by elimination. So they thought I had rheumatoid arthritis. You know, they thought I had endometriosis. They thought I had irritable bowel syndrome. But it was just test after test after test until, and I was falling apart. Honestly, I'm a single mother of 3, and I was in a lot of debt. And I was having a hard time getting up to go to work. It took me like 10 minutes to literally move my joints. And I was also starting to have bladder problems. I had sciatic nerve. I was having trouble with my gait, memory loss, swallowing. I felt bugs on my skin, you name it. And the doctors were like, well, maybe it's all in your head. And I was like, oh my God. So I decided to do my own research, like you said.
No.
Yes. Yes. And I found out about fibromyalgia and how it's all about toxicity, and toxicity meaning, anything that causes inflammation or stress in the body. So that's many things. Could be in the food, the water, the air, medications, but most importantly, trapped emotions and unresolved trauma cause a lot of stress in the body. And that made a lot of sense to me because I had a lot of that in my past. And so around the same time, the medical industry did actually diagnose me with fibromyalgia. I was referred to a neurologist who, in 30 seconds, pressed a few pressure points and said, oh, you have fibromyalgia. And so what happens then is that what they do is they give you Band-Aid medications because they don't know what it is. And so first things that they want to give you is painkillers, sleeping pills, like all that strong, like stuff. And what happens is that I wanted to take it, but I didn't. But what happens is that people take it and then they feel better for a while, and then they become tolerant and they need a higher dose and a higher dose until they can no longer have a higher dose, and it's a long-term disability. So I was like, what? And that I was really thinking, like, what's wrong with these doctors? Like, do they even know what they're doing? So I started really looking at the medical industry differently at that point. And I decided to get help. And so I joined, I went to the Gatehouse here in Toronto. It's a safe space for adult survivors of sexual abuse. And there I found out I was super normal for what I had gone through. And so a lot of my shame, I was able to drop a lot of my shame, start accepting myself, forgiving myself for all the things I put myself through. And, I was able to start caring and loving myself. And so within a few months, I got sober. I started going to the gym. I was eating healthy food, taking supplements. I lost 60 pounds. I was in the best shape of my life at 40. But most importantly, I started standing in my truth. So I stopped betraying myself to please everybody else. And I put the blame back from my childhood stuff where it belonged. And I stood in my truth. And I just, within a year, no longer had any symptoms of fibromyalgia. And I was in the best shape of my life. And I started running programs at the Gatehouse because I loved it. So I became a facilitator there and started noticing that a lot of people with trauma had somatic illnesses, and the medical industry wasn't able to figure out what was wrong. And I was telling them what I knew, and they were getting better. So I decided to found Lighting Up Dark Corners. Now, this is in 2019. But, I had my 2 jobs, nursing jobs, and being a single mother of 3 and a lot of debt. I was kind of like Lighting Up Dark Corners kind of took the back burner. And then the pandemic hit. And so that's when because I was already like, oh my God, what are my residents eating? Why am I giving them so many medications? I started feeling like I was actually the problem. Instead of being the nurse who cares and helps people, I felt like I was a tool in this monster of a system that was making profit over people getting sick. And as I said, that's when the pandemic hit. And when you work in a nursing home, the government doesn't care about these people. They literally get a fraction of the daily food allowance from the government than prisoners do. So I was like, nobody's going to believe this. This is crazy. So I went into work and, started to try to talk to people, and nobody wanted to hear it. Everybody was really scared to talk about it. And, I was chief steward of the union where I worked. So I was known to be the big mouth, and they were like, Sarah, not for this.
They were scared to hear what?
Well, I was just like, this is crazy. We can't be complying to this. Like, everything went against our rights.
You mean the COVID narrative in general?
The COVID narrative, but the nursing homes shut down right away. So there was protocols that were put into place. Family members can come in. I was like, this is crazy. Like, family members are not going to come in. We were just told to put masks. We were forced to, the administration was taking our temperature twice a day. So many crazy things. They were telling us to regown. So we're now supposedly in a pandemic. You have to be even more careful than usual. And, we put isolation gowns when people are in isolation. And now we had to kind of do that at first for everybody. And then, it was just a mess.
And so you were the only one that was, there was no other nurses that they were like skeptical of this?
They were, but they didn't want to be seen speaking about it. It was just insane, the fear that surrounded, and how it was like you couldn't even say anything. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm going to say a lot of stuff. So I called the union. And I told the union, like, they're taking away all my residents' rights. They're taking away our rights. Like, what are we going to do about it? And the union turned around and said, Sarah, don't you care about your residents? And that's when I knew I was going to be in trouble and there was going to be no help. And I started getting scared that I was going to get fired, because on top of being in debt and being a single mom, anyone who worked in a nursing home couldn't go to their other job. So I had 2 jobs. I could no longer go to my job in the community. So I was losing money. So I stayed quiet, and I started seeing my residents deteriorate. I had a resident that died of a heart attack within 1 week of the families not being able to come in. And people were like, oh, it's probably coincidence. Well, no, it absolutely wasn't. This is the type of resident that when I came in the morning, I had to call her daughter right away to know what time her daughter was going to come, because her mom was going to ask me every 5 minutes when her daughter was coming. And if her daughter was a few minutes late, she would go into anxiety and almost escalate into an attack, an anxiety attack. And she had heart problems. So what happens to these people who have language barriers, dementia? They don't care about lockdowns and viruses. They just want to see their families. And so she stressed herself out and had a heart attack. And I don't think that people realize this, but obviously nursing home is the last stop for these people. And the only thing they look forward to is when their loved ones come in. You can see them come to life. And some of our residents don't eat from us, because they're smart. They know that if they don't eat from us, their families are going to come in. And so what happened to those people? Well, they let themselves die. They starved to death, and it's called failure to thrive. And they even had the audacity to hire new volunteers to come feed these people. And I kept fighting. I kept saying, this is crazy. The family should be coming, and they're not going to eat from them. They know them even less than they know us. So it was a mess.
So they would let volunteers come in to feed them. They wouldn't let their family come in and feed them.
Yes, they hired volunteers.
So that's one of those things that no matter how many times someone tries to explain it, it's unexplainable, and there's no logic to it whatsoever. Just like you have to take a vaccine so my vaccine works. That never made sense and never will make sense.
Exactly.
But this is what, and people were, if you press people's fear button, they go along with stuff like this, and they don't question it. And I think because I was a comedian, and because you had your experience finding your own truth and standing up for your own voice, you were able to stand up against this. And my whole life as a comedian was standing up against the status quo and making fun of it and poking holes and showing where it doesn't make sense. And so that's why I was able to do this with COVID. Plus, I got vaccine injured. It really, it made me. But I know people who got vaccine injured still didn't say anything.
Very true.
I got emails from people in news media saying, I got myocarditis, but I'm not saying anything. Keep doing what you're doing. And because they know it would cost them their job. It's just so good.
Nurses are still scared till today to talk.
Of course.
But yeah, so I'll continue. So then they started testing us too by force. We have to give them our health card in the workplace. Like, so wrong. That's not legal. They're not allowed to do that. But the union wasn't standing behind me. And so they started testing our residents too. In my nursing home where I worked, 3 housekeepers tested positive, no symptoms whatsoever. And so now not only can nobody come in, the residents are locked into their rooms for 14 days until everybody is after 14 days, they test everybody again. And if everybody is negative, then people can come out. And you can imagine some residents were really not down for that. And they didn't even understand. They didn't want to stay in their room. And so those residents were said to have a behavior, and the doctor was called, and they were sedated. And any resident who was trying to take her walker and go walk in the hallway and wasn't listening and was becoming agitated, they would take the walker away. Like, goes against everything we've ever learned. You never let someone who has an aid to walk alone in their room without their aid. Like, it's just crazy. It puts them at risk for falls, and once they fall and break their hips, we know it's all downhill from there. So, at that point, my mental health started deteriorating, to be honest. I started smoking weed again. I was crying all the time. And I was working with people with mental health issues in the community. Like, it was a disaster. It made no sense to me. The lockdowns were so much more harmful than the actual virus. And so, and then I understood, like, I started understanding, I healed myself because I became aligned with myself, my values, my belief, my truth. And here I was disaligned again. And my silence made me feel like I was on the side of the oppressor. And I wasn't okay with that. And so once I figured that out, I decided to speak out. And so it's a long story, but I spoke out. I lost both my jobs. I'm under 5 investigations by the college, one which turned into a disciplinary hearing. Actually, they just now sent me, while we wait for the decision, 3 new cases that are going to turn into disciplinary hearings. We were defamed internationally by the media, called domestic terrorists by some, because I ended up in Washington, D.C. not too long after that. We had countless death threats, summons, RCMP at our door, you name it. And so, so that's kind of what happened when I spoke out. I don't know where you want me to go
No,
now.
and so then how did that lead into you starting Nurses Against Lockdowns?
Okay, so I first spoke out in October 2020. I was actually the first active nurse to speak out at a rally here in Canada, and I had founded Nurses Against Lockdowns. And I thought the mission was to unite nurses, educate the public, and bring the ethics back into healthcare. And so when I did my first speech, the first time I spoke, I also spoke about Nurses Against Lockdowns, and I thought that all the nurses in the crowd were going to come on stage with me and we were going to stop this right then and there. That didn't happen at all. But one nurse did see me, Kristen Nagel, and we teamed up, and that's how she actually called the nurses in the States, Erin Marie and Nicole Siratek, you might know them. And we came together, and we were going to meet in Florida, but Dale Bigtree invited us to speak in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. And me and Kristen were so excited. We had no idea about how political that day was. So we ended up there. And we were global frontline nurses at that point, and we wanted every country to have a chapter. So when me and Kristen came back, we were the first chapter. So Canadian Frontline Nurses. That's how Canadian Frontline Nurses came about. And then Nurses Against Lockdowns, which was only me, I merged it into Canadian Frontline Nurses. And so Canadian Frontline Nurses were proud advocates for medical freedom. And we went across the country. We did road tours. We spoke everywhere that we could at all times. And we weren't, I just want to make it clear, because some people think we're anti-vaxxers. And that's not what it's about. It's about informed consent. This is what we learned in school. It is our job, actually, when the medical industry turns against the people. This is the first thing we learn in ethics. When the medical industry turns against the people, it's our jobs to, I quote, agitate and advocate for what is best for our communities. And we can clearly see that around this vaccine, there was no informed consent. Informed consent has 5 categories. It means you know the benefits, the real benefits too. There's no lying, obviously. So the benefits, the risks, the alternatives have to be known, right, before someone can give informed consent. And they have to know how it works in the body, and they have the right to have all their questions answered without corruption. And so that wasn't happening. And so that's what we were doing. We were letting people know that not all nurses agreed with this, and that, we were giving people a warning, like this vaccine was not safe and effective. So, yeah.
Well, it is safe and effective. So that's where you're wrong, because that's what the FDA.
The college told me.
That's what the FDA. I don't know what your kind of crazy research you're doing that led you to say something like that, but I have to correct you, because the YouTube science and the FDA and the CDC clearly says that it is safe and effective, and that and even though they had to change the definition of what a vaccine is, it's definitely a vaccine. And even though it doesn't stop transmission or contraction, it's still definitely a vaccine, because it stops what does it do? It will prevent you from getting I think seriously ill or dead. And so that's and it slows the spread. Even though everyone got it anyway, you got it slower, which is that's attractive. And so that's a big part of it. When I got the polio vaccine, I was like, I hope I get the polio I hope I get polio slower.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You know how that goes.
Yes,
I just have to clear that up. So are people now? I always because I've traveled to Canada for 30 years doing comedy, and I always found Canadians to be sensible, and to care about their civil rights and things like that, and be skeptical of big corporations. And what do you think happened to Canada during COVID? Was it just the corrupt leadership of Justin Trudeau, or what was it?
No, I think that Canadians were very gentle, thank you, sorry, we don't sue people. We're not like you Americans. No, But I think that's what it is. Like, oh, don't rock the boat. You know, we're more like, well, I say we. I'm not a part of that team, obviously. But I think that we're just like known to be peaceful and not causing too much problems, kind of people. Is what people told me, and then I was like, well, it looks like that's what it is. So I'm not sure. People are really scared. Scared to lose their job. People are very like quiet when they're scared to, lose something.
I mean,
So
I was surprised to see people who I knew personally who wouldn't eat GMO food, who were rabid advocates for an experimental medical treatment with no long-term studies, coming from big pharma to fight a vaccine, to fight a virus that was created in a lab that was lied about by as a bioweapon from DARPA through a CIA cutout called EcoHealth Alliance. Even though Barack Obama put a stop to gain of function. I mean, all that stuff. I'm not supposed to know that because that's me doing my own research. And the reason why they had to shame people is to make them stop doing their own research, because if you looked into it, you would find out it was one big criminal organization running everything. And also the WHO is, under the thumb of billionaires. They're not actually advocating for the health of people. They're advocating for the policies being pushed by their donors. And their biggest donor is Gavi and Bill Gates, right? So you put those together. Anyway, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that about the WHO. They're fantastic. But Trump just pulled us out of the WHO. So I think...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so that's a good thing because... They were trying to push legislation to make the WHO supersede our own government, our own local governments. And if there was declared another pandemic, they would be able to mandate anything they wanted, and we'd have to follow it. And if we didn't, we'd be breaking the law because we had signed on to that law. But so thank God for Trump doing that, at least.
Yes.
I'm sure that he'll be doing plenty of things that I don't like, but that's certainly one thing that's great that he did.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
So,
and
ahead.
like fun fact is that there is the World Council for Health. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, no.
And I just joined them. Actually, they have a new nursing department kind of thing where and so it's an organization that's obviously in its grassroots, but it's global. And it's something that is trying to be what the WHO was supposed to be, with people like us.
Yeah.
That spoke out, and so just so you know,
it's supposed to be an altruistic organization comprised of health professionals who are interested in people's health, not run by a legit terrorist who hangs out with terrorists and isn't even a doctor. That guy he's a veterinarian. The guy who runs the WHO, correct?
Tedros, yeah.
Yeah, and is completely infiltrated by billionaires. That's what the WHO is, right? So, yeah, I think I'm allowed to say that because that's a fact. But a lot of facts YouTube doesn't like.
Right.
They didn't like it when I was saying the vaccine didn't stop transmission or contraction, and I was saying that before anybody else was saying that, and so I got in trouble for that. And I said, but it doesn't. It doesn't stop transmission or contraction. And they said, yeah, you're not adding enough context. They said, you got to say that it slows contraction. And I'm like, well, who gives a F? Like, I get it. It's like, oh, I want to get polio slower. But so now I say it does. I say it slows contraction, and it'll keep you from serious illness or death. And don't pay attention to those studies that say that the more boosters you get, the more it wrecks your immune system and makes you more susceptible to getting sick and sicker. That's not true. Even though there's people saying that, and they're saying that there's studies that say that, don't listen to that. Just listen to what Big Pharma says and listen to what the CDC and the FDA says, because they're all good people right before they go work for Big Pharma, right? That's why. That's right.
Yeah.
And
hey.
So where do we end up? What would you like to say before? What are you up to now?
Yeah, so what I need I need public awareness with my my cases. So it's two big cases actually. So I don't. Are you okay with me speaking about them right
Sure,
now?
go ahead.
Okay. So remember I said that I had 5 investigations against me?
Yeah.
The first one turned into a disciplinary hearing. And so and this case is very important because remember I was the first one to speak out. So I'm the example for the other nurses here in Ontario and or Canada even.
So they used you, their persecution of you, as a warning, just like when they locked up Julian Assange. That was a warning to other journalists. You better not reveal secrets of the war machine or else we're going to put you in jail. So they were doing this to you publicly as a warning to the other nurses. You better keep your mouth shut, keep your head down and go along, right?
Absolutely. And it's been a long journey. It actually started in March 2023 and just finished in December 2024. And it was supposed to be, it's a case, it's a very important case. It's not about vaccines or anything. It's about freedom of speech in nursing, right? And it's very important because
freedom of speech, that sounds very right wing.
I guess so. I've been told I'm very, very right wing. I didn't know, but
yeah,
you know. So yeah, and so there's 11 allegations, 12 allegations against me. Which are all known to be true today. And they're all from when I first spoke out. So that's with Nurses Against Lockdown. So it's kind of like October 2020 till February 2021. And all these allegations are known to be true today, but they keep saying that I had no way of knowing back then, right? So it was all about that. And it was supposed to be a 7-day hearing with my experts against the college's experts. And it ended up being 30 days. My experts, who are very known here, I don't know if you know them, but Dr. Byron Bridle, virologist and immunologist that was actually working on the vaccines, not qualified for 10 out of the 12 things he was supposed to cover. And Dr. Pellick, which is another great researcher and immunologist, I believe, was also only allowed to speak on 1.5 of the 4 issues he was supposed to talk about. So basically, the evidence is not in. I was on the stand 6 days. It's all about discrediting, right?
Right.
And even though while I was on the stand, I went through the code of conduct that because they sent me these allegations and they put the code of conduct at the end. And I thought that's weird because like the code of conduct and the standard of practice is exactly what I did. So I'm like, what? So I showed them while I was on the stand how I followed every single aspect of their code of conduct and standard of practice and how they didn't. And no, they just turned it around. There's so much gaslighting.
So can I ask you, so I know in the United States, Dr. Fauci held the keys, the wallet, right? So he was the one who would give funding to universities and to research people, and he could make or break your career with that kind of funding. And is it so that's why people would be corrupt, and that's why the people who originally said the virus came from a lab in Wuhan flipped because Fauci gave those people millions of dollars in research fund, meaning he gave them bribes, and then they flipped and said, oh no, I think it came from a wet market, right? So we know that's true because we have the emails that reveal that, right? And so that's why people are so corrupt. And of course, the news media in the United States takes all the money. 70% of cable news is funded by Big Pharma. So we all know this, right? So so they're all corrupted by the money. Now, why in Canada is it the same thing up there? Does Big Pharma somehow hold the purse strings to the colleges and the research, and what is it the same kind of corruption happening?
Well, I'm sure some of that is happening, but also here it's like a lot the government, because we don't have a CDC. I mean, I guess we have other things, but it's not the same. So the government funds public health, and public health puts in all the mandates and measures and policies and all these things. And I mean, Klaus Schwab did say that he owns half of the cabinet here in Canada, and I'm pretty sure he owns Justin Trudeau. So, I mean, there's funding coming from up above, obviously. Probably not in the same way.
And so how can people help with your case? So obviously they're doing a political prosecution of you, and they're not allowing you to present a defense properly. They're discrediting the expert witnesses you have and not allowing them to. So is this in front of like a jury of your peers?
Yes, it's in front of a panel of members of the disciplinary committee.
Oh, so it's not. So it's not just random nurses that were picked out of. It's these people who are already in a disciplinary. Okay, so these are So you're in bad trouble. So how can people help you?
Yes, but we never really expected to win at this level, and we do plan on appealing it and bringing it up, and especially maybe having more chances because other doctors have gone through this already, and the divisional court just denied the appeal. So hopefully that doesn't happen because we intend to take it as high as we can because this is serious. Freedom of speech in nursing. If nurses can't be the last line of defense, like we saw what happened.
Yeah. So do you have a Give, Send, Go or something that people can help contribute to?
I do. Actually, I have a new web page because this is not the only big case I'm in. There's also our big case coming up for the Emergencies Act. So Canadian Frontline Nurses, we were boots on the ground, part of the convoy here in Canada.
So the truckers protest, and then Justin Trudeau invoked the Emergency Powers Act, which gave him the right to freeze their bank accounts and things like that. And it was proven by the highest court in the land in Canada said that was an improper use of the Emergency Powers Act. Of course, there's no punishment for him doing that. So what is your involvement with the Emergency Powers Act?
Well, he's appealing it, and he's coming back in court February 4th and 5th. But we were the first group to sue them, and we're the only protesters group that represents the people. So the other two groups are two law groups or associations and things like that. So they're just looking at the legalities. They're not saying that there was no need for an emergency act, for the Emergencies Act to be put in. That's what we're saying, right? And so the problem is that the judge didn't want to hear that. And he said, we're too controversial and dismissed and silenced us. And that's actually illegal. That's unlawful in itself. Like he has to hear what we have to say. We have all the stories that back up why this was not supposed to happen. It was a love fest. I've never seen so much unity in this country. It was amazing. It was people coming together, uniting to give a message, and the government shut down the message, didn't want to even hear the message. I think he said he had COVID. And then, put in the Emergencies Act. So it's kind of important. The judge dismissed us. So the judge doesn't want to hear it. So we are appealing that because we want the people to be heard. The stories from the ground need to be heard in order to see how incredibly tyrannical that was. And so that's where we come in.
And so tell people how they can help you.
Yes. So kind of cool. I now have a web page, so they can just go there, and there's a little bit about everything, like my case with the college, my case with the Emergencies Act. So it's sarahforfreedom.com. So Sarah with an H, number 4, and freedom.com. And all the information is there, and you can help me through that. I'm actually in a lot of debt. And the college is actually going to come after me, and I'm supposed to pay their cost of their 5 lawyers in those 30 days of hearing. So, but I don't, anyways, maybe I shouldn't say all that because I don't intend to pay that. I'm not going to lie. I don't have money. I had to sell my house. I had to sell my house. I had to, so I don't know. They're not going to get money out of me. But I need help to keep these things going. And so that's what it's all about.
Well, you should set up a corporation, and so then they can sue you, but not this corporation and so stuff. You should talk to.
We had Canadian Frontline Nurses was the corporation, but we went after the Canadian Nurses Association and a news outlet for defamation. And the courts, we used a SLAP, which is an acronym, which I should know by now, but it's really something grassroots organizations use against big corporations harming the public. And they turned that against us and used it on us, and we lost. The judge, it was just crazy. There's so much corruption. And so Canadian Frontline Nurses is now inactive and collapsed. So that was the organization.
So it's just that, yeah, people have no idea how corrupt their governments are. They have no idea that you're not run by politicians. You're run by huge, big money interests. And just like every movie has ever depicted from the last 150 years, since they started making movies, every thing that they put, of course it's true. Of course it's we all live in Pottersville.
Yes.
So that is, and that people can't. What? No, I voted. My vote counts, and no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. If it counted, you'd have freedom of speech. We would have never gone through COVID the way we went through it. But your vote doesn't count. Yeah. So, all right, but people should go to sarah4freedom.com. Sarah with an H, the number 4, freedom.com, and they can help you. Sarah, I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you for pushing back against corruption and the COVID narrative and telling the truth. Yeah, I know firsthand. There's not a lot in it for us to do that, right? There's the exact opposite. You get people turning on you, you get slandered, discredited, you get hit pieces written about you, your reputation gets dragged through the mud. Facebook did that to me, and that's why almost all my old friends in Hollywood now think I'm some kind of criminal because I was telling the truth about COVID on Facebook, and then they would attach a bullshit fact check to it. That's saying this is disinformation, and they're like, "Oh, Jimmy Dore is trying to capitalize." What a horrible human being, trying to capitalize, make money when we're all trying to protect old people from dying from COVID. So that's what people thought, and now Zuckerberg gets to say, "Hey, turns out all those fact checks were wrong, and we're going to stop doing that." Isn't that something?
Yes, it is.
But there's nowhere to go to get our reputation back. So.
But you know what? We get to still have our integrity, and we get to keep our soul. Our soul is intact. I don't know, but I can sleep at night. I wouldn't be able to sleep if I was them.
I can't sleep, but it's got nothing to do with COVID. But but anyway,
thank you so much,
Sarah.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for doing what you do. I hope to meet. I'll be up in Toronto. We're in Toronto, right, eh? Or we're going to be coming up there. I think in what is it? Is it May? I think it's at the end of May. We're going to be up in Toronto.
Oh,
so hopefully we could run into you.
Yes, that would be awesome. I would love that.
Okay. All right.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
Okay, it was a pleasure. All right, over to Steph.
You know what? We're going to go.
When I first heard about it, I thought it was almost too good to be true. That's true. Thousands and thousands of people reporting absolutely transformational health benefits, tens of thousands of 5-star reviews, and life-changing stories. Colostrum is the first nutrition we receive in life. And it's an exclusive source of all the essential nutrients we need in order to thrive. Armra Colostrum is a bioactive whole food with 400 plus functional nutrients like antibodies, antioxidants, micronutrients, and minerals. It's been known to strengthen immunity, to improve gut health, to ignite metabolism, among other benefits. Armra Colostrum is cruelty-free and only uses surplus colostrum from grass-fed cows that would otherwise be waste produce. It's a win-win. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmra.com/Jimmy or enter Jimmy to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/Jimmy. All right, welcome back. We have special guest with us. Dr. Mary Tally Bowden is a board-certified, I can't say that, otolaryngologist. How do you say it?
Otolaryngologist.
Okay, and she's a sleep medicine specialist who completed her residency at Stanford University. She successfully treated more than 5,500 patients without a single death. Look at that. But she was nevertheless suspended by the Houston Methodist Hospital over alleged misinformation. She's the founder of BreatheMD, a clinic focused on personalized sinus, allergy, and sleep care. Dr. Bowden is also known for her work in publishing research and her involvement in advocating for health freedom through initiatives like the Coalition for Health Freedom. Please welcome back to the show, Dr. Bowden. Thank you for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
So I just want to play this. So if people don't know, you stood up, you had to show, courage and tenacity. And most people, I would say most people in the medical profession did not. And so you got a little tribute from our favorite member of the Texas legislature. And I just want to play that.
Dr. Bowden, you're my spirit animal. I know that sometimes you feel alone and you're looking around saying, what is everybody doing? Why aren't more people standing up? And I want you to know you're not alone in that. I know exactly what that feels like. But I want you to know that God surrounds you. He's proud of you for standing up. He will protect you. And you continue your obedience because that's what you're here on earth to do. You thought you were just going to be a doctor. And I don't mean just a doctor because you've done amazing things. But God has big plans for you. And I'm so proud that you continue to stand firm for what you believe in. Thank you so much.
Hear, hear. Not now. From someone who's taken the slings and arrows not as badly as you have, over telling the truth about that must have felt really nice, right?
It was wonderful. Do you know Shelley's backstory?
So
because she was
yes. So Shelley. By the way, let's talk about Shelley. So tell us her backstory. Go ahead. I'll let you tell it.
Well, she was put in prison for 3 nights because she refused to lock down. She owned a hair salon and she stood up and, she's not the type that would, go to prison. Right. And she stood up and stayed strong. And then she was so mad that she ran for office. And then she just won this last election. So she's a brand new representative.
Wow. So, yeah. So she actually went to prison to fight against the authoritarian fascist lockdowns that most people accepted and most people pushed, and they would slander you if you spoke out against them, which was the most anti-American thing I can imagine. People act like fascism just came to America with the election of Donald Trump, and I had to remind people like Cornel West on my show and many others that you've been living under fascism. You just cheered it on instead of fighting against it. And someone like that, a hair salon owner, did fight against it, had more courage than all the people I normally look up to. And of course, you stood up against it also. So it's that's great job. And this just happened. This was on May 15th. She tweeted out, "Tonight I passed HB 3441. It's a bill to hold manufacturers who advertise in Texas liable for injuries their products cause to Texans. Let's make Big Pharma put their money where their mouth is." So that's a great, you must have been excited to hear that also, right?
Yeah, I actually came and testified for that bill too. So it was even better.
So how does something like that get passed in a legislature like Texas, especially knowing how corrupt our politics are in general in the United States?
Well, yeah, it's surprising in some ways, and in some ways it's not. At the same time, there was a bill to make ivermectin over the counter in Texas, and that died.
That failed.
The bill to ban mRNA shots in Texas, and that died. So, they had to give some leeway, and this is what they decided they'd do.
Now, my theory, my guess is that they think it's going to get struck down by the Supreme Court, and that's why they were willing to go along and give a small victory to people like Shelley and us. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I've wondered if, yes, this is just, giving somebody breadcrumbs to keep us happy.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll take it as a win for now.
It just seems like, why is there a special carve out for this one product that nobody else, I saw Borla, the head of Pfizer, he was asked, why do you have this carve out for no one can sue you for damages if they're injured by a... He said, well, that's because people can get in a car accident and they can say, oh, it's from the... Well, they can say that about any other drug. They can say that about a high blood pressure medicine or a cancer treatment or any other drug, yet you don't have a special carve out for that. You just have it. So that, and of course, the interviewer didn't push back and say that to them because the interviewers are being paid by the big pharma, and that's the big problem in America. So it's crazy that there's this one single carve out. And isn't it amazing to you how much they've been able to get people to go along with the big pharma propaganda about the carve out for
well, I'm kind of mad at myself because I never questioned it. I remember learning about it and it was presented as a great victory for because were protected, and it was the gospel according to there was no discussion of any kind of issues, side effects, dangers at all with it was just taken as a fact that safe and effective, and they deserved this special protection so that nothing, could happen to them, that they'd never have a threat to go away or so. And, I never questioned mandating for children to go to school until the shots came around. And, when all medical mandates are fundamentally wrong, but we've gone along with it for so long. When we take our children and get them shots, vaccinations, only because the school is making us, that's a medical mandate. And I don't know about you, I can't speak for you, but the majority of people have gone along with that.
Well, I, like you, never thought about it until, and I don't have children, so I wasn't faced with that dilemma. And what shocks me is that I have friends today who I consider very smart, and they go along with the schedule without question, no skepticism whatsoever. And, I talk to them and I say, that within the first day, they give to a baby for hepatitis B, which can only be gotten through intravenous drug use or unprotected sex. Why would you give that to a baby? And their answer is, well, that's the first one they give them. That was literally what people say. Well, that's the first one they give them. Like, that's as if that's not ridiculous to say. So I'm lucky I dodged that bullet. I didn't have to make that decision and live with the guilt that I probably would have right now if I got my kids on that schedule. What do you, okay, so anything else you'd like to say about that before we move on?
It's hard. I don't envy parents of young children because none of these shots have been tested against placebos, saline placebo, and they haven't been tested where you give 6 shots in one day. So it's a dilemma. And, what I'm telling my patients is, maybe hold off until hopefully, Robert F. Kennedy will straighten that out and we get some real data.
Yeah. So when they say that they've been safety tested, what I've learned because of the work of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is that when they say that they've been tested, they've been not tested against a placebo, which is an inert saline solution. What they've been tested against is another. And some of these tests are very short. They've only followed up for them. You can speak. How short are some of those tests?
Generally, I believe about a month sometimes, not long term.
Yeah. So you would think it would be 10 years. You think they would follow these. But no, it's not. Some of them, just 4 to 6 weeks, and which is very disconcerting to me. And you're not allowed to ask these questions because people get scared. They've been told the propaganda is, well, if you ask questions about the schedule, you're liable to make other people hesitant, and then everybody's going to get sick and die. That's the big propaganda, right?
Right. And the other thing they don't tell you, and we learned this during is early treatment works for the vast majority of diseases that are being vaccinated against. There is a treatment for, so that's also not being discussed.
Yeah, it's amazing how measles went from a punchline on the Brady Bunch when I was a kid to now being the scariest thing in your kid could ever face. And a life-threatening illness that everybody should be shitting their pants about on a 24-hour basis. To me, it's just amazing. And when I show those videos of how it was a punchline on the Brady Bunch, and to now you'll see these dramas on NBC talk about, oh my God, and they have the dramatic music underneath. It's just. It just goes to show you that when Bill Clinton allowed Big Pharma to advertise on network television. That was really, really a horrible thing for this country. And people don't know that we're the only country besides New Zealand that does that. And guess which two countries were the most authoritarian and oppressive during?
Right. It's a good point.
So we live in a completely corrupt society. That's what I'm trying to say. And the people, I can't believe people still turn to corporate news for their news, even after Russiagate, even after the Iraq War twice, even after Afghanistan for 20 years, and even after they lied to their face that Joe Biden wasn't demented. And when everybody knew that, I knew that he was demented in 2019. And so if I knew that, they knew it too. And now they're all pretending that they were hoodwinked by the administration, although we know they weren't. And those people, the thing that's surprising to me is not that corporate news lies, because that's what they do. The biggest liars are the government. Second is corporate news. And third are randos on social media. But what's surprising to me is that people continue to go back to those people who've lied to them at every turn since I can remember. They've lied to them since, at least since the Iraq War. They've lied to them about everything. Isn't that surprising to you?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the pandemic changed that to some degree. I mean, I'm certainly a lot more skeptical of, I mean, I used to watch mainstream news. Now I would never. And I think there are definitely more of us out there now.
So I want to get to this case. So they came at you, right, for telling truths about ivermectin and they came down hard on you. And so what's happening now is that they're coming after you still. This is from just the other day. Dr. Mary Talley Bowden's social media activity faces review in a hearing. Can you tell us, so they're still coming after you for old posts you made on social media. Can you tell us what the background is on this and what's happening?
Yeah, I had two hospitals report me to the medical board. First was Houston Methodist. Basically, they suspended my privileges for spreading dangerous misinformation. And my response was to resign. And then they turned me in for resigning. And then at the same time, Texas Hughley Hospital turned me in because I was trying to help a man who was dying get ivermectin. His wife sued the hospital. I was part of that lawsuit and we won. And we had a court order to give the man ivermectin. Basically, the hospital appealed. There was a stay, but there was a lot of confusion over whether or not I was allowed to go. And the lawyer told me I was allowed to send to the nurse to give the ivermectin. But the hospital said I wasn't, but I didn't know that at the time. And the nurse went to the hospital, shows up, and the police basically tell her to leave, and she leaves. So that was November 2021. And it's just become this saga. It's been dragged out for 3.5 years. And they recently the medical board was awarded summary judgment against me, saying that I did not have privileges when I sent the nurse. And so this hearing was to determine how guilty I am, what kind of punishment I deserve. And the first thing they did during the hearing was scrutinize a bunch of posts I made on social media 3.5 years ago.
And so were you ever able to get that patient ivermectin?
No, he never got it. He did make it out of the hospital, but he could never make a full recovery. He lost half of his body weight, and he died April 11th, 2023.
Wow, that is sad. And so this is to get, they're trying to take away your medical license. Is that what this is about?
Well, they're trying to sanction me. I don't know that they would take my license away for this, but they offered me initially to make it all go away if I paid them $5,000 and agreed to do 8 hours of CME and retake the jurisprudence exam, which is a legal exam all doctors have to take. And I just said, no way, I don't want to do that. And I was hoping for a public hearing, but right before the hearing was scheduled, they filed a motion for summary judgment and the judges awarded it to them. So I didn't get my hearing.
Wow. So you don't even get your day in court. And so what, You're in the medical field. You must interact with lots of other licensed professionals. Have they woken up to the fact that they were in fact lied to, and that there was a concerted effort by the establishment to make people think that ivermectin was not a safe drug, and that ivermectin was not supposed to be used for humans, and not only that, but hydroxychloroquine, that there was this extra effort to make it seem that it was dangerous when it really was safer than Tylenol?
There's been some shift. I mean, I saw 2 radiologists today in my office who were, they'd both gotten multiple shots, and now we're having issues and we're fully aware of what had happened. But I asked them, okay, what about your colleagues that you hang out with? They're like, oh no one sees it yet, which I found surprising. I see more online. I see a lot of doctors online speaking out more than I used to. But I don't know that many doctors are where I am.
And is that because, we're I give so much, we used to before, put so much faith into doctors and we revere them, right? Why do you think doctors are so reluctant? I mean, I think they're more reluctant than the average Joe to be skeptical of the and big pharma this day. Why wouldn't that be the exact opposite? The people who know the most, why are they like that, you think?
Well, naturally, we're a certain type, we're a certain personality, because to survive the training, you have to be compliant. And I've never been in the military, but I imagine medical training is similar. I mean, you have to, it's very rigid, you cannot veer outside the lines. And you have to make straight A's, and you have to be likable to get through it. So I think that's part of it. I think doctors are not prepared to deal with online information, because like when I was training, if you didn't have a textbook, you didn't have the information. So you really didn't have patients coming to you all the time, questioning what you were doing. You were the authority. Now it's quite opposite. I mean, now before anybody goes to a doctor, for the most part, they have research and they sort of have what's going on in their head. And doctors don't like that, because, it is a lot of training and we do see a lot. And then when you're constantly being questioned, you dig your heels in. I think a lot of it is financial, that, most doctors are employees now, the vast majority. And if they're not employees, they are tied to a third party that, has a little say in how they treat patients. And I'm different. I call myself third party free because I don't contract with any third parties. But that's unusual. And that, like it or not, that guides a doctor's decisions to some degree. So I think it's multifactorial. It's just doctors are not like they used to be. I mean, the doctors that trained me, some of them were wonderful. I mean, they were ahead of their time. They were outspoken and almost rebellious in some degree. But it's just a different nature now.
And so, what is are you still waiting for a decision on this case?
Yes.
And so do they give you a date when we'll know what the result is?
No.
Okay. Well, let us know. Keep us abreast. I'd love to cover it. And so speaking to, what you just talked about, I saw this video was tweeted out by Dr. Simone Gold, and it speaks about why doctors are compliant and why they don't question or aren't skeptical and don't push back against establishment narratives. And she has a great theory. Let's listen.
5 years ago, let's say, doctors were now 15% of them were self-employed and 85% of them worked for either like a hospital corporation or some other kind of big corporate structure. That's foundationally a completely different environment than 40 years ago. Doctors are no longer small business owners working for the patient. That's one thing. Number two, medical training, medical education, in retrospect, selected for and rewarded physicians for being very compliant with protocols. And then we did this protocolized medicine year after year. It got more and more and more. For example, in my work as an emergency physician, a person comes in with a fever. If I didn't give them antibiotics within 1 hour of their arrival to the ER, I would be financially penalized and my job would be threatened. So you learned to comply. There was kind of no way to push back. So we've had years and years. And
with another guy who had written a book about the JFK assassination and how it's exactly what the Warren Report said. And the guy on the left side said, no, what that guy was doing when he did that, he was just saying, hey, it's my lunchtime. I'm going back to the, yeah, that's what he claims that guy was saying.
Now I would say the unions are too strong if that's true.
It's like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to run alongside the car, but my lunchtime. See you guys. I'll beat you back. That's literally what he said. And then
there's a term called security stripping, which is what they did to Trump, which is what that's called.
Yeah.
They security stripped him.
And then they go to the next guy. And they said, well, what do you make of that? And he said, I've read every book about the Kennedy assassination, and it's hard to keep a conspiracy like that secret for more than 6 months. Well, they've done it with 9/11 for 20 years.
Hey, asshole, everybody knows there's just not shit we could do about it, dickhead. It ain't a secret.
Yes.
What an asshole.
What an asshole. And, of course, the C-SPAN guy didn't push back at all.
Well, that's when they couped America. That's the one of the main part. No, 9/11 is kind of the final one, but that one was the main one. And did you know that's when we got electronic voting right after that?
Oh, no, I didn't. But
did you know Dr. Bodden, the famous coroner that you see on HBO and everything, got his job because he helped say that JFK happened the way the Warren Commission said?
Really?
That's where he came from. He testified to the magic bullet being real. In fact, there's a bunch of people installed since Kennedy that I never knew had any connection to that. But of course they do, because they all got placed in their jobs.
Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford's one of the worst motherfuckers ever lived. Yep.
So anyway, I just can't get over that stupid argument of, oh, you can't keep a conspiracy secret. Well, obviously Building 7 was full of explosives. Somebody put him there and nobody ever talked.
Who says you can't keep a secret, by the way? We've already had secrets come out. First of all, here's some secrets that have come out. Every news story that I heard 20 years ago, the secret came out 20 years later. You could see the time frames when they're allowed to come out.
We still don't know who's on the client list of fucking Epstein, for fuck's sake.
And by the way, it's not a client.
That's a secret
client list. I want to know the blackmail list. Who is he blackmailing?
Yes.
The client. He's not doing them a service by blackmailing
That's right.
them. That's one of my he's Israel's client, and he blackmails people on behalf of his client, Israel.
Whenever you hear someone say you can't keep a conspiracy, shut the fuck up.
Who still says that?
I'm telling. I saw that video from C-SPAN. Spooks say that. Okay, hang on.
Oh yeah.
So let's get to this. So
why do you have a job, Spook?
So Chief Nerd caught this. So the CNBC guy, this guy. So they bring on. He has a lot of questions about why people are being sick now, why is cancer on the rise, and he has a suspicion that it might have something to do with the team, which is crazy. So who does he bring on to ask about this? The former head of the FDA, Scott Gottlieb, and guess where Scott Gottlieb works now? He's on the board of Pfizer, of course. Again, this is the exact thing RFK Jr. is trying to fight against, and that's why they have to call him crazy and cuckoo. And CNBC, they bring on the guy right from Pfizer, who used to be the head of the FDA. And by the way, when the newspapers talk about Scott Gottlieb, when the news organization, they refer to him as former FDA director. They don't go, guy who just went from the FDA directly to millions of dollars at the Pfizer board.
They don't say current Pfizer spokesman. They don't say that.
They don't say current Pfizer. They say former FDA head. It's amazing. But anyway, so he's going to ask him. So watch this. Oh.
Son of a bitch. Shit.
My God.
Hold on, Jim.
We got to write her up.
Whoa.
Sorry.
That's it. You're going to go back to making videos full time. Here we go.
On a serious note, I tweeted this out. A friend of mine, and if you're watching, I love you, diagnosed stage 3 breast cancer.
And so I just want to let you know.
On a serious note, I tweeted.
So the difference between what this guy does and what I do is his set. That's the difference. He has this big, beautiful set, and I don't. I have a tiny little room in my house. Okay, here we go.
Also, he gets great interviews with the great
he gets
Gottlieb.
He gets the great Scott. He gets the great Scott Gottlieb on.
Gottlieb.
This out. A friend of mine, and if you're watching, I love you. Diagnosed stage 3 breast cancer yesterday. Okay, close family members of mine have had it. Another buddy of mine just had a stroke. He's nonverbal now. Buddy of mine was in a hospital for 3 days. Just got out yesterday or 2 days ago. RSV pneumonia. I know I'm getting older. I know we're all getting older. Is it just me or is everybody sick? Like the level of RSV, pneumonia, all this stuff going around, strokes, breast cancer. The New York Times did a story on breast cancer spiking. Doctor, can you give us an answer as to why? Because you know where I'm going with this. A lot of people point to maybe even the because it
maybe even the I think you have your tinfoil hat on a little too tight because no, there's nothing different from before. Little kids have always just grabbed their chest with a heart attack in classrooms. That's all. We were just tougher. We were just tougher back then, Kurt, and we didn't talk about it. That's all.
Well, climate change.
And it was probably
yeah.
Here we go.
Oh no. What is it?
Yeah, look, we don't know is the answer.
We
Some
don't.
cancer.
Oh, we don't know.
We don't.
We
do you
don't
have any
know.
Ideas? Can we speculate?
So Scott Gottlieb, corrupt criminal, who used to be a corrupt criminal heading the FDA, is now a corrupt criminal at Pfizer, and he's on CNBC. Why? Because Pfizer gives truckloads of money to CNBC and bullshit people. And the truckloads of money are there, so they don't bring on someone like me or Dr. Robert Malone or Dr. Pierre Corey to go and to debunk him. So that's why there's no one there to push back on him when he says, we don't know. Let's just watch this again. This is beautiful.
On a serious note, I tweeted this out. A friend of mine, and if you're watching, I love you, diagnosed stage 3 breast cancer yesterday. Okay. Close family members of mine have had it. Another buddy of mine just had a stroke. He's nonverbal now. Buddy of mine was in a hospital for 3 days. Just got out yesterday or 2 days ago. RSV pneumonia. I know I'm getting older. I know we're all getting older. Is it just me or is everybody sick? Like.
This part, I guess he must get a check from CNBC, why? Because that money comes right from Pfizer.
Oh, does he pay CNBC to make him to pretend he's a good doctor?
I guess so.
He's contributing.
Dr. Scott Gottlieb, when was the last time you treated a patient? That'd be my first question.
Yeah, well, Dr. Jill Biden, when was the last time she treated a patient?
Here we go.
Country right now, with the exception of norovirus, which is still going up. The strain of norovirus that's circulating right now is a new strain, so a lot of people probably don't have baseline immunity to it, and that's why you're seeing so many people getting it and so many people getting sick. That's about the incidence of norovirus.
Whatever you think, it's definitely not because the boosters create wreck your immune system and make you more susceptible to catching viruses. That's not what it is. Just if that's what you're thinking. That's definitely not, even though the Cleveland Clinic did a study that showed the more boosters you took, the more likely you were to contract the virus, the more likely you were to get sick. That's been buried. We don't talk about that anymore. That's not real. And it's definitely not the fact that the two people who were in charge, the 30-year-long employees of the FDA in charge of the department at the FDA resigned over the booster program. It's definite, and then they got replaced by who? A couple of schlubs like him, a couple of corrupt liars like him. They got rid of the. So if you're anybody who stands up and says something like, "Hey, I don't think the boosters are good, and this is bad," you resign. They just replace you with a tool, a willing tool. So that's what happened there. But it's definitely not because of the boosters. It's definitely not because they they wreck your immune system. Like Dr. Robert Malone said they had a good chance of doing on our show in the 2021 when no one else was pushing back against the. He said just because one good doesn't mean 2 is better and 3 is best. They could wreak havoc on your. They could have deleterious effects on your immune system. It's definitely not that, though. I'm just letting you know. There's some people out there thinking because the boosters are screwing up people's immune system and making. You know, remember when Mika told Joe Scarborough that, wait, after you got your booster, you got sick for months. Remember that? It's got nothing to do with that. That's all just anecdotal evidence. That if you piled it up, it would reach the moon. But that's just, and it doesn't matter.
I hope Scarborough kept taking boosters. I hope he did.
He did. I hope me too.
Virus right now is probably 2x what it was in the last 5 years in prior seasons. So there is more of that going around right now.
Ask a difficult question. Did we hurt ourselves in some ways by avoiding stuff for so long that now these super bugs have been created? Otherwise, I'm just not sure what.
You know, those super bugs are created in a lab in Wuhan. Yeah. Lots of them also in Ukraine. I don't know. That's why the pardons go back to 2014. That's when we overthrew the government of Ukraine. And then Joe Biden got appointed head of Ukraine policy for the United States. And that's when Hunter Biden got his job, his no-show job on the energy board. That's when Joe Biden made sure that the government had to fire the investigator investigating Burisma, where Hunter Biden worked. You know, all that stuff.
Remember that Hunter took his dick to an Asian wet market, so to speak?
So this guy, who I appreciate he at least asked the question. I like his Pat Zajac haircut.
Yeah.
The guy, and I'm jealous that, you know, his hair dye looks fantastic. I'm jealous of guys who are brunettes. Anyway.
Really?
Yes. Anyway, he at least he brings it up. But of course, he works for a corrupt organization that's corrupted by big pharma money, and he's asking a guy who's on the board of big pharma, Pfizer, and they pretend he's not because they say he's a CNBC. They call him doctor, and he's a contributor. Then they go, oh, but he's the guy from the maker. They don't say that.
I wonder who his loved one is that he's asking these tepid, not quite probing questions that quickly are not go nowhere. On behalf of, and then he tries to find another. Is it because we locked down and that created the super bugs, or could it be that we're actually my whole family's dead? Do you think there's a connection? There's not.
Could it be that we're actually creating super bugs in laboratories all around the world right now? Could that be it, or is it that we locked down? I bet it's that we locked down. He doesn't even bring up the fact that we're literally creating. The former head of the CDC said that the only way this bird flu is going to be able to jump is if they do gain-of-function research on it. Remember we played that video of him saying that?
Yeah.
And they're doing that research right now.
You can't go by what they said.
And by the way, I hate that they call it research. It's not research. They're doing science fuckery.
Yeah,
that's not research. Nobody wants
doing is crimes.
Nobody wants anybody doing gain of function research. Barack Obama stopped it, and then Fauci went around him. Nobody wants it. So kudos to this guy.
I'm sure Obama was cool with it, though.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's not like Obama was like, "Hey, did you keep doing it?"
Going on.
Yeah, well, with the flu season, RSV, and this year, the levels of infection weren't out of proportion to what we've seen from the historical norm going back maybe 10 years. There was a rebound after people were sequestered and a lot of these pathogens didn't circulate. I think we've worked through that and we're getting back to more of a...
Yeah, remember how flu just disappeared during... Remember that?
Yeah, and then it existed again.
And then it existed again. The flu lockdown. Isn't that funny?
It transitioned again. It changed its identity to flu again.
McIlhany says Gottlieb was FDA commissioner until April 2019. He left to join the board of directors at Pfizer. Pfizer expects to make $100 billion this year. Borla made $24.3 million last year. Pfizer will lose $20 billion in patents. 26. As service equals illness as product. That's what McIlhany says.
Borla only made $24 million. That seems like he must get.
Well, that's I think. Plus, I'm sure he has stock. And the Biden administration dished out $590 million hours before he left office. And where did it go? It went to Moderna. $590 million. You know what he gave the fire victim? $700. Moderna secures $500 million funding from U.S. government for bird flu jab, who the former FDA director said they were doing gain of function to make it be able to jump to humans.
Oh, by the way, couldn't get eggs at...
It's like you create a problem and then you sell the solution. Isn't that interesting? And you get funded to do both of them.
Yeah.
You get American taxpayer funds to do both of them.
Jimmy, there was no eggs at the store yesterday at the supermarket over here.
Really?
Which has to be some shortage because the bird flu, bird flu shit. It's a great racket, man, because you have all aspects. You can just corner people into going where you want.
Here is Pfizer board member Scott Gottlieb says he has a deep concern about RFK Jr. leading HHS.
Yeah, I hope he does.
Donald Trump has made all of his picks for the health-related team, and joining us right now to talk about all of this and what it means to the sector is Dr. Scott Gottlieb. Of course, he is the former FDA commissioner.
The guy looks like a Goomba from the fucking mafia.
He does. He does.
I'm in the import-export business, Mr. Senator.
I hope this prick's deep concern. Yeah.
I have impeccable respect in my own country.
His reputation is impeccable in his own country.
Impeccable. My reputation is impeccable.
He's just here to see his brother. He only speaks Italian.
He only speaks Italian. There are buffers. 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 I sell olive oil. I'm a retired businessman living on a pension. I don't know why you're coming at me like this.
I have deep concern. I hope the deep concerns make his dick not work.
Under the last Trump administration, he's also a CNBC contributor. And Scott, you're still a board member at Pfizer as well?
That's right.
Okay, and a board member at Pfizer. Let's jump into this.
I like how she kind of says that at the end under her breath. And you're still a board member at Pfizer, right? Correct? Okay, you're still a member. All right, whatever.
That's the closest thing to having scruples I've seen on this channel ever.
At least she mentioned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like she goes, okay, I got to mention it, but it's not important.
Yeah, it's like, but
let's just dwell on it for a minute, not go by that.
The most important thing the biggest money grab you've ever had in your life. You still doing that? Okay, just want to make sure the biggest money grab you ever did in your life.
The thing that gives you a reason to lie right now in this thing we're talking about, you still work for them, right?
You still work for them?
People who wouldn't tell you if there was a problem.
Okay.
Why don't we start with the incoming administration's choices? Because there's been a lot of consternation, a lot of people who have said, wait a second, with RFK Jr. heading things up. What do you say?
Why don't they have a guy right from Pfizer headed up? Oh, like you. How you were the head of the FDA? Shouldn't we have someone like you headed up? The RFK's never worked for Pfizer. Isn't that weird?
How would he be qualified?
How would he know what to do if he hasn't worked for Pfizer?
As somebody who served in the last Trump administration.
Yeah, look, I have deep concerns about Kennedy's stated intentions to roll back core public health protections, particularly as it relates to childhood. He's brought in a very experienced team, a lot of lawyers from the Children's Defense Fund, which is his anti-vax organization. These guys...
You don't want to roll back children. You don't want to roll back children. You know how the first kids get is the hepatitis B. You know how you get hepatitis B? You get it from intravenous drug use or unsafe sex. Why would you give that? Why would that be the first one they give to a baby?
There's not any good answers to that.
When I tell that to people at Hollywood parties, they're like, what? That's crazy. I know. That's why. But they're never told that by criminals like this. That guy, unbelievable. Looked like he just walked out of Goodfellas, this guy.
Well, I like that I'm Children's Defense League.
Yeah.
A team of lawyers.
Yeah.
He's like, because he brought in these experts from the Children's Defense League, like, boo! Children's Defense.
They're capable. I think they're deadly serious. They've been very clear about their intentions. And I think sometimes you have to take people at their word. I'm not so sure that people really understand how Kennedy's intentions are going to translate into policy and how serious he is. There was an article recently where one of his
there was an article recently that we funded, by the way, over at Pfizer. Anyway, we paid for this article to be written recently.
Confidants, Del Bigtree, who's going to be probably brought into HHS, said, he didn't get inside the castle to forego his long-held beliefs. They're going to follow through on these.
Are you urging Republican senators to not confirm him?
Look, I think that there's skepticism in the Republican caucus, more than I think the press is reporting right now. There's going to be ag state senators that are concerned about his impact on food prices. There's going to be principled pro-lifers who are concerned about his positions on abortion. And there's going to be a number of public health-minded senators.
So that's the new thing now.
What did he just say?
That's the new thing now. So now they're pretending. So now they're trying to get right-wingers to oppose RFK Jr.
Principled pro-lifers.
Because he's not against abortion. That's what they're doing.
This is really unbelievable. They actually put a little principled because pro-lifer is automatically bad in the world of
automatically
shitlings.
bad.
So now there's a new Pokemon called a principled
pro-lifer.
And that means you're against abortion, but you're for 72
Yes. At birth. So I have deep concerns about his position on.
If you were talking to a Republican senator, would you say that the appointment of RFK could cost lives in this country?
Could cost lives.
I think if RFK follows through on his intentions, and I believe he will, and I believe he can, it will cost lives in this country. I think some in Congress right now who are deeply skeptical think that they can manage this through things like appropriations riders. That's not going to be successful because, like I said, RFK can go in there with a stroke of a pen, disband ACIP, reconstitute it with like-minded people, issue a whole new bunch of recommendations. He can frustrate the ability to take the money from the children's fund.
He could get them to take, like stuff like aluminum out of. Come on, we need aluminum.
Hey, take people at their word, he said. The Children's Defense Fund is coming, and we should. So I should take them at their word that they're defending children, is what you just said to me.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me why it's bad. Like, I'm supposed to already think they're bad.
Yes.
Okay, like, I know the Patriot Act is bad, but it's because someone told me why. When I first heard of it, it sounded good. So you got to tell me why this is like the Patriot Act and not be about being a patriot. He hasn't done that. I'm supposed to know.
Which would impede a state's abilities to vaccinate children. There's a lot of things that they could do day one very easily, administratively, and I don't think there's a thing Congress can do.
I hope he's right.
A key component of the corporate capture of public health institutions that Kennedy also vows to slam shut is the revolving door. So he wants to end stuff. So this guy is completely corrupt, and he went right from the FDA to the people he was supposedly regulating. That's called regulatory capture, meaning that he actually works for the people he's supposed to be regulating on behalf of people. So that guy's what he looks like is he looks like a mafia criminal, because that's what he is. He's a mafia criminal, and the mafia is Big Pharma. And he's their foot soldier. He's
everybody in the Uniparty.
He's the boss of his own family. He's got his own family. Yeah.
The news, all of that Uniparty, the Republicans who are concerned that you might not shoot kids full of aluminum and shit. That's all the same mafia, like the 5 families.
That's right.
They all get joined together.
How is someone supposed to monitor the quality of a corporation unless they are also on the payroll of that corporation?
Yeah.
We're just not thinking.
You get what you pay for, so that's why you want me to do good jobs. You got to pay them.
That's right. Okay, we got a guest coming on. I'll see you in a little while.
Okay, bye.
All right. Over to Steph.
We're going to go to a card just so it makes it easier for the transition. We'll be right back.
All right.
Back to Jimmy.
So the word on the street is that Fauci still, even though he got a pardon, he might get prosecuted on the state level because the pardon was not for the federal level. South Carolina AG Wilson is coming for Anthony Fauci. Even Biden's pardon won't save him. So what's going on? Alan Wilson leading a coalition so he's the South Carolina attorney general or state's attorney. And he's leading an investigation of a bunch of attorney generals, state attorney generals, investigation into Dr. Fauci.
Yay.
Let's watch. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Hang on a second. I forgot to take out the
ad,
the Jeffers McGill ad. So let's just play it. Let's play it, and then we'll cut it out in post.
Editors, cut it.
Profile, cafe, and monogram brands.
Oh,
Visit
that looks nice.
jeffersmcgill.com to get started.
You can have it all.
You can have it all. Great selection.
And always the best prices.
And the best prices. Jeffers McGill. With reliances. That's right.
Alan Wilson says he is leading a coalition of state attorneys general in an investigation into Dr. Anthony Fauci's role in the pandemic response. Wilson is alleging that Dr. Fauci mismanaged the pandemic, made misleading statements, and suppressed scientific debate. Dr. Fauci has repeatedly denied any allegations of wrongdoing, calling them absolutely false, and preposterous.
And remember, whenever the accused claims that the charges against him are preposterous, that translates into, oh shit, they found out. Because it looks like Tony Two Masks might wind up in the big yard after all. State laws are awaiting him, just like Elliot Ness busting Capone for tax evasion.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I think he looks pretty confident, because let's face it, we already know all his crimes. So are you going to look into it, are you?
Well, I like how he says his and the news still won't tell you what his crimes were, but Fauci thinks this is ridiculous. You mean an investigation into you did? What are you going to do? Watch old Jimmy Dore clips? Read RFK's book with all his crimes delineated in it? The investigation's already been done, bro. Just arrest him. Use the fancy terrorist laws.
Yeah. Hold him with no trial or charges. I thought we had these terror laws for a reason. We can't capture a bioterrorist and do this? We killed an American citizen in another country, didn't we?
Yep.
With drones. We don't have drones for terrorists like this?
Here's one congressman who's a doctor giving it to him.
Believed an institutional should make it hard for people to live their lives.
So remember when Dr. Fauci wanted to make it hard for you to live your life, so you would be forced to get the what? Remember this?
So they'd feel pressured to get vaccinated. Could we run the audio clip on that, please?
And here's an audio clip of someone recording Fauci saying this thing.
You think can be done about it? I have to say that I don't see a big solution other than some sort of mandatory vaccination. I know federal officials don't like to use that term.
Once people feel empowered and protected legally, you are going to have schools, universities, and colleges are going to say, you want to come to this college, buddy? You're going to get vaccinated. Lady, you're going to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Big corporations like Amazon and Facebook and all of those others are going to say, you want to work for us, you get vaccinated. And it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated.
Are all objections to vaccinations ideological bullshit, Dr. Fauci?
No, they're not, and that's not what I was referring to.
Well, in reference to making it hard for people to get education, traveling, working, I'd say it very much was in context. That's exactly what you meant when you said making it hard for people to live without getting a vaccination. You affected people's ability to work, travel, be educated, to actually flourish in American society, to self-determine, as we're all given God-given rights. Shame on you.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, shame doesn't work on him.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, buddy, cut it short. He don't care. Look at his face.
The guy's he's got more fans than scruples, okay? And he's losing fans right now like if he was a Kansas City Chief. By the way, is there a tip or a hotline that I can send the countless hours of footage of Fauci lying?
Yeah.
Because I've got them.
To save money on this investigation. It's been done for how many years now?
Yeah.
20?
No kidding, right?
Like, that's why I don't buy this. I'm like, okay, this guy's been a Joseph Mengele rampaging across America for 20 years. Nothing happened. So unless you got some undercover, like, white hat branch of CIA, it's going to do something. Nothing's going to happen.
And now that Fauci is not the head of the NIAIDOIU, guess what he's saying now? Watch this.
Fauci says COVID-19 and influenza don't work well and calls for improved shots.
A startling bit of news.
You sent that over to me, and I was looking Babylon Bee, something like this. No, it's actually true. It's a new paper that he wrote with a couple of colleagues from the CDC in a magazine. I'm sure you have a subscription, Cell Host and Microbe magazine. But all joking aside, this is what he actually said. If we can do the next one. Against both vaccine and influenza have, quote, deficiencies, including that they elicit incomplete and short-lived protection against evolving virus variants that escape population immunity. Fauci, until recently President Biden's chief medical advisor and top National Institute of Health official, wrote in a recent paper. But if you'll put this next one up, Dr. Paul, unfortunately, instead of saying that, that we really messed this one up, no, the paper is called Rethinking Next Generation for Coronaviruses, Influenza Viruses, and Other Respiratory Viruses. We messed up, but we're going to keep doing it.
That's true. They want to manufacture the enemy, then they can treat it, and there's evidence that that's exactly what they were doing. But when I read this, superficially, it could be interpreted, well, they don't work well, and he calls for improved shots. Well, maybe he has in his mind that we can convince the people that, well, yes, we messed up, but those they weren't the right thing. But we have the right thing now. Yeah. Get back in line. Yeah. I don't think that's going to work. I mean, the people sometimes are so complacent and they just follow and think the government can tell them, the best thing to do. But they're not going to line up.
No, only weak punk-ass Democrats will continue to do that. Only the last of the loyal blue, no matter who, morons will still do that, but no normal people.
So
I don't believe it.
So before Fauci believed in natural immunity and said if you got the flu, you didn't need a flu shot. Remember?
But she's had the flu for 14 days. Should she get a flu shot?
Well, no. If she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected yourself.
And
so if she really has the flu, she definitely doesn't need a flu. If she really has the flu,
she should not get it again.
No, she doesn't need it, because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected yourself.
And then that all switched And now this is what he says.
And what about for folks who have had a cold, possibly a bad cold early in the season, and they think they've gotten the flu and now they have an immunity because they've had the flu, and so they don't need the flu?
Well, there's two components to the answer. One, they may not have gotten influenza. They may have gotten any of a number of the circulating upper respiratory viruses. Coronavirus, adenovirus, parainfluenza. They think it's flu and it's not. You will likely never know. Therefore, you should get the flu.
So now he has a totally different answer. He has a totally different answer now. Isn't that wild? It's a totally different answer. So I could do this all day. I don't have time, but I could do this all day. And the people who repeated every stupid thing he said, every lie he said during, they'll never feel stupid. They just memory hole it and they move on. They put on another mask and they move on.
And those people are never going to say, look at Fauci and his grift.
Never. They're never going to say that.
No, they'll say it to you, though.
But they'll say it about me. Jimmy
doesn't believe what he's saying. Jimmy actually secretly thinks Fauci's great.
That's what a grift would be if I didn't believe what I was saying. I believe.
Is it true you bought a house with your earnings from your show? Grift.
Grift. Is it true that you worked really hard and built something?
I mean, your returns are quite modest for what you could have gotten if you were doing a grift. If you were doing a grift, you could be living high off the hog. And by hog, I mean Cenk Uyghur.
Okay, over to Steph.
Okay, thank you so much.
Let's take a quick break.
Okay, quick break, and we'll be right back. 3, 2, 1. Jack in a Box, please leave Jeffers McGill ad in the clip. You're welcome, Jeffers McGill. Jack in a Box. Thank you. That's too funny. You do care about intention when you know you're being fooled. Maybe you just don't suspect you're being fooled. You're forgetting there's anything worse than government corruption, like, say, big tech, totalitarianism. Hanover!
Can I play that
Fauci
commercial
equals
again?
murder elf. Lori, thank you. Back to Jimmy.
Let me play that commercial again.
For appliances with reliances.
Appliances with reliances. Boy, they got a hook, don't they? Yeah, baby. Move over, Elton John. I'm bringing the lyrics. Appliances with reliances. You know, when they wrote that, they're like, get the champagne. Get the champagne. Bill,
did you stay up all night, but it was worth it.
Did you hear what we came up with? Watch this. So, appliances with reliances. We did it!
It doesn't really make sense, but it's all right. I mean, good for Jeffers appliance.
Everybody should go see Jeffers. All right,
Jeffers McWashers.
So the FDA is pulling the shots, limited, but they are doing it. FDA to limit shot approval, and it's only supposed to be for people over 65 and those with special medical conditions. But there's a catch. Until today, as Paul Thacker says, the U.S. government recommended 6-month-old infants get a vaccine. The FDA now limits vaccines to people who are 65 and over and those at high risk of serious illness. Below our recommendations for the rest of the world, America was a complete... So the rest of the world has been doing this. Australia, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, even the UK. You have to be 75 years or older. So they were all, we're the latecomer. You know why? Because Big Pharma owns our country more than those other countries. That's why. Because we're the only country that allows Big Pharma to put ads on our television news shows or in our newspapers. Those other countries don't. They're not allowed to do that. And that's why they had more sensible policies than we did. And that's why it's taken so long. And so here's a guy who is now in the working at the FDA. Now, I've showed you this guy before when he lied about the emergency use authorization, but he has told some truths about. So he's one of those, he's what they call a limited hangout guy. And so now he's working at the FDA, and listen to what he had to say. He's now the head of the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research at the FDA. His name is Vinny Prasad, and I've done videos about him before showing you how he's lied about RFK, and now he's working for RFK. Isn't that interesting? So here we go.
So based on prior immunologic endpoints, that means proof that the vaccine can create antibodies in people, companies can apply for, and we will consider approval for 65 and older and or people at high risk of severe vaccine. So if you're older than 65 or you're high risk for vaccine, we're going to use the immunologic endpoints we've been using to grant approval. This is a tremendously broad category. This effectively means 100 to 200 million Americans, those with the most favorable benefit to harm balance, will be covered by such approvals. The CDC has a list of the conditions that qualify as high risk for severe vaccine. You can peruse the list. It's also in our New England Journal paper. It is a broad list. There's a lot of things on this list. I'll just highlight a few. Obesity is on this list. Physical inactivity is on this list. Mood disorders, including depression, is on this list. And all immunocompromised conditions are on this list. In other words, at-risk Americans can be reassured that they will be covered by such approval.
So that means basically anybody can still get it and your insurance will cover it. That's really what that means. And as our guest of the show, friend of the show, Mary Talley Bowden points out, he's very careful not to mention that pregnant women are on the list of high-risk patients because he knows people will freak out. But they are on the list. Pregnant women will continue to get these shots without placebo-controlled trials. He's doing that. So at last count, 14% of pregnant women were getting the still. And he knows what that means because I know what that means. Warning, if you are obese, this is considered a risk factor and you will be encouraged to take boosters. By the way, don't forget that the two people in charge of the department at the FDA resigned over the boosters. They thought the booster program was so corrupt and so wrong that they resigned. And they had been there for 35 years. And guess what they did? They let them go, and then they put two lackeys in there who went along with whatever Big Pharma said. And they're still there. The FDA is to limit vaccine approval to Americans over the age of 65, those with medical conditions. Note, the list of risk factors is long. And there is no current evidence of benefit from boosters, but they will continue to push you to booster up. And here is, so I have to tell you that the boosters are safe and effective, and they will help you. They won't stop you from getting, but they're going to keep you from getting seriously ill, hospitalized, or dead. So that's fantastic. Here's the long list of, if you have these conditions, you're still going to be encouraged by the FDA to get the boosters. This is the FDA. It's going to encourage you. So that's it. It was up until 5 seconds ago, they were telling you to give it to a 6-month-old baby. Up until 5 seconds ago. They estimate more than 100 million Americans are still going to be eligible for the shots. 100 million. So that's a third of the country. Basically a third of the country is still going to be eligible for the shots, which means that that means that money's going to go to Big Pharma. That's what that means. In past years, the shots have been broadly recommended, including to children and to generally healthy people. It was not immediately clear whether healthy people under 65 would be able to get their shots or whether insurers would pay for them. What they did was they got around that. Well, we're just going to pretend like most people are unhealthy. And so they'll be covered by the insurance, so Big Pharma gets the money. That's what that is. That's 100 million Americans. If they do not make it permissive, meaning that individuals who are not in this risk group, it is likely now that payers will not pay for the vaccine. So, okay. Therefore, in a sense, it is equivalent of taking away the from someone. So there's people still yelling about this. The change, which top Trump health officials had earlier forecast in vaguer terms, comes just 2 days before the agency's independent advisors are set to make recommendations on selecting the formula that makers should use to potentially adjust their shots to target the strain of the coronavirus currently circulating the country. The new framework will also seek for makers to conduct a randomized controlled trial before the agency signs off on coronavirus shot for healthy people. So they're still saying they're going to sign off. We need you to do an actual randomized trial, though. And I'm sure that's not going to be rigged. I'm sure that trial is going to be done on the up and up. When possible, the agency will encourage manufacturers to complete such trials. They will encourage them to complete such trials after they get the agency's approval for high-risk groups. After. Did I just read that correct? Does it say after? So they're going to approve it, but then they want them to do the trial after it gets approval. That doesn't seem suspect at all, does it? The FDA will approve for high-risk persons and at the same time demand robust gold standard data on persons at low risk. The clinical trials will inform future it's unbelievable. So this is not what this is not what people voted for. This is a little bit. It's a little better. It's a little better. During a presentation Tuesday afternoon, the FDA leaders did not directly say whether healthy people younger than 65 would be eligible to get the shots. Vinny Prasad said the agency is interested in companies conducting. So we already did this. Okay. In recent weeks, Trump administration has questioned the testing of for coronavirus shots, introducing uncertainty over whether an updated shot would be available in the fall. RFK, the nation's health secretary and founder of a prominent anti-vax, this is the Washington Post, has said he intends to shift the way tested, a notion that has sparked concern among medical experts. You mean he wants to have real tests he wants to have better safety testing? Oh my God. And so you see Washington Post gets a lot of money from Big Pharma. That's what that is.
Yes, Big Pharma experts.
That's right. Ian Weissman says the possibility that vaccines would become unavailable for kids alarmed pediatricians. I bet it didn't. I see children admitted to the hospital. They're not all high-risk children. If we have effective that prevent illness, use them. Okay. Children are at less of a risk from they are from the flu. And these guys are out there shilling for big pharma. Just so you know. Okay. Maha. Over to Steph.
Elon.
It probably dawned on him it's not real, is my guess.
Yeah. It's not good for business to have him as the face of the company anymore. That's for fucking sure.
Not at all.
You can't be, that's like Michael Jordan, remember? And he said, hey, Republicans buy sneakers too, or whatever. They buy Air Jordans too. I'm not And that's what business is, It's like, but Elon Musk doesn't get that. He might figure out how to hire the guys to make a rocket, but he hasn't figured out how to not make his stock tank when he decides to shit on half the country.
Because the stock's always tanking. By the way, I hate the stock market because I remember that he smoked a joint on Rogan.
Yeah, I know. And that was a bit. I know,
dude. I mean, I don't know if I can.
The stock market, they're all full of fun. They're all cokeheads going over to strip joints and having 3 martini lunches. The point is,
if it goes down, buy Tesla. That's my advice. Like I should have done with Bitcoin every time it went down, and I never did.
I know. I bet it'll come back as soon as they make a car that's actually comfortable. Because I don't know, every time I get in a Tesla, it rides like I'm in a shopping cart. Like, do you guys have shocks on this car at all? It's not
I don't know what you're talking about at all. I've never had that experience. In fact, going fast, it really makes me feel queasy because I can't feel anything.
No, it goes fast, but it's not. Well, maybe you're not sitting in the back seat. I'm always sitting in the back seat, and it's a tough ride. It's bumpy.
I didn't even know they had one.
Yeah, because
they make different models, I guess. But
because I drive Ubers and Lyfts all the time, right? And so they always show up in a Tesla, and I'm like, oh Jesus, I'd so much rather have a fucking Toyota Camry or a RAV4 or something. But the Tesla's just like. Anyway, we got to start the show. I'm here with Kurt Mexican. He's in Austin. I'm here. I'm back home. Hey, I should have showed that video. Oh, I'll get it.
What?
We'll show it Wednesday.
No, I'll show it today. But the video of we were in San Jose last night is amazing. It was amazing. It was.
Have you ever been?
It made me start to regret other things in my life.
I haven't been.
Kurt's never been to San Jose Improv, but it was full. It was like there was 500 people who came to see me on purpose.
And were we there in 22? Was that when the last time we were there?
We were there in 2022.
Wow. And that crew at San Jose Improv, they treated us so well. It was
so
terrific.
The last time we were there, it wasn't all the way full because people were still afraid of but now that's over. And so the place was jammed. It was packed. And I was so happy. But let's get to this. Guess what? We've been telling you that there wasn't a thing they didn't lie to you about. They lied about masks. They lied about herd immunity, natural immunity. They lied about the stopping transmission. They lied about the stopping contraction. They tried to bury the trial data for 75 years. They got rid of the placebo group, which you're not supposed to do in science. They lied about where the virus came from. They lied about funding the virus. Well, guess what? Now Jeffrey Sachs is telling us that it wasn't actually invented in China. Jeffrey Sachs was, by the way, remember he was the head of the Lancet study group to study the virus, where it came from. So now he's saying this.
I'll tell you a sad truth, also a little surprising. And I have to admit, what I'm about to tell you is only 99% sure. But my view, based on very extensive work over the last 4.5 years, is that came from the University of North Carolina, which is the leading researcher on beta coronaviruses, working with the U.S. government on a set of grant proposals that identified putting in the viral change that created SARS-CoV-2. It's a grim truth. It's ugly. it's been hidden from view. The reason I mention it in this context is we don't have any global governance that is effective right now to control the manipulation of dangerous pathogens like the manipulation that created the pandemic. And when it happened, and officially it took 7 million deaths, but probably if you count all of the deaths associated with probably closer to 20 million deaths. Even when that...
Yeah, I can't believe that he still quotes that statistic. We know that they were overcounting those deaths. They were saying people who died from, and we know that's not true. So we know. So I'm kind of surprised he's still quoting that. That's a shocker to me.
By the way, dying with was the whole point of designing and releasing so that people that would die with do that. It's not an accident. Oh, it accidentally got out in Wuhan and Fort Detrick?
Yeah.
They both had oopsie butterfingers? No, that's planned. And the guy that told me about the Taliban having the lithium triangle in it, and his info was good, he told me the deal in China is they've got that population bomb of old people that they can't take care of because they don't have kids to replace them, and they don't do immigrants. So they need to soft kill, just like in America where we don't want to pay Social Security. That means how I take that, this is just my personal, how I take it, Fauci and a coalition of whoever is in the universities with China, they both released at the same time because the plan was to get rid of some excess population with
Now, that's Kurt's theory, and I am past the point where I discount anybody's theory on or anything that the government has said in the last 20 years because it's been nothing but lies, lies, and lies, starting at 9/11. And going right through every war, going right through Libya, right through the meltdown, right through everything, right through Ukraine, Syria, Afghanistan for 20 years, everything about. So if you can think it, there's a good chance it's true, is what I'm saying. But I'm surprised he still quotes that number. Let me just see what else he has to say here.
Happens, it's never properly investigated up. It's hidden from view.
This is a big claim. It's the first time that I hear.
Yes, it's a big claim. So, of course, it's never. So, a lot of people are scared that he's calling for global governance to stop. I don't think he wants the world's governments to agree to stop doing gain of function. I don't think he's advocating for the global governments to come together and start a World Health Organization. I don't think he's doing that. I think he's saying, hey, let's have a world treaty to stop gain of function. I'm on board with that. He's right about that. But this is not new news. And my question to Jeffrey Sachs, who's a friend of the show and an amazing guy just in general on world politics, my question to him, I wish that guy would have asked him, when did you figure this out? How long have you known this? Because Redfield, this is the former CDC director. He was the CDC director under Trump for a little while. He said this last year. Last year, I think in November on this podcast.
Who else? China said it.
And China's been saying that. By the way,
they were telling the truth. They were telling the truth.
China's been telling the truth that no, it was created at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill by Ralph Barrick. And here, this is what he says. Watch. Oh, God damn it.
Barrick at the University of North Carolina.
Oh, hang on. Go to Steph for a second. I effed up.
Okay, let's go to Steffi Z. Here we go. I have a couple comments already, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. We had a great time in Bakersfield. Terrific time in San Jose.
Was engineered,
I would say it was a good time in Bakersfield.
Chonky, jamming to the break time salsa. Some Chinese guy made all these songs. Chonky. And then Fiend Temp, third time seeing JD live. The whole show was very funny, starting with Steph to the end. Better without Negronis, just saying. All right.
Oh, how did he know I wasn't drinking?
Because you had just water on stage.
Really better without Negronis? I always think I'm funny with a few drinks. I haven't had a cocktail. I haven't had a cocktail since over a month, since we were in Atlantic City. I got the flu, and then I just never had another drink after that. But anyway, here's Redfield.
This virus was engineered. I think it was intentionally engineered as a part of a biodefense program.
What was the U.S. role?
So when they say biodefense, they mean it wasn't created for defense. It was created to be a weapon, and then they create the vaccine so it was created as a weapon, not to defend ourselves from someone else. It was a weapon to attack people, and then they create a vaccine so they could give it to our people who are so that's what that's all about. But anyway, so she asked him this question.
In that.
I think it was substantial, and this is why.
What was the role of the U.S. in creating this?
You know, when you look at the accountability for China, their accountability is not in the lab work and the creation of the virus. Their accountability is not following the international health regulations after they realized that they had a problem, and allowing people like me at CDC to come in and to help them within 48 hours like they were obligated to based on the treaty. But the U.S. role was substantial. One is they funded the research, both from NIH, the State Department, USAID, and the Defense Department. All four of those agencies helped fund this research. Secondly, the scientific mastermind behind this research is a guy named Ralph Barrick at the University of North Carolina. And he was very involved in this research. I think he probably helped create some of the original viral lines, but I can't prove that. But he was very involved. And
some have said that they are concerned that it was actually developed here and China was framed. Is that possible?
Well, I don't know if they were framed, but I think there is a real possibility that the virus birthplace was Chapel Hill.
So he was saying that last year, and we need to ask him if Fort Detrick is the source of the pandemic. In summer 2019, an epidemic of an unknown respiratory disease spread across the United States when the CDC abruptly shut down Fort Detrick for serious safety violations. And this is from Global Biodefense. Research halted. The U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases, the only biosafety level 4 laboratory in the Department of Defense, has ceased research operations on high-risk pathogens after failing to meet. So that was when a lot of people were getting sick, these respiratory viruses, and they go, oh, it's remember they said it was from vapes. And a lot of people speculate. I'm like, why would it just happen in that area? Why would people be getting sick from the vapes just there? People are using vapes all over the world. Why just right around Fort Detrick? So then they shut it down, and of course you were lied to about that. And so here,
you know how, Jimmy, if you do vape and you drop your vape on the ground and you get something in there, you're inhaling it into your lungs. So it's kind of but it wouldn't just be everywhere because a virus is loose in the area where you dropped your vape.
So the Carolina Journal, the former CDC director claims that vaccine emanated from you. This is from last November. At the time, UNC Board of Governors Chairman Randy Ramsey said Dr. Barrick has provided life-saving coronavirus treatment options for the people of our state, our nation, and the world. But rumblings of Barrick's possible involvement in the virus's creation have been circulating almost since its known beginnings. Hey, before we go on, Malcolm, can you find that when Rand Paul questioned Fauci and he said, "Are you funding gain-of-function research?" And he said no. And he said, "Are you doing it with Ralph Barrick at the University of North Carolina?" And he said no. But if we are, it's being done according to regulations. Do you remember that? Could you find that video? We've used it before, but I don't know in what. So see if you can find it. And of course, cut this out. But the rumblings of Barrick's possible involvement in the virus's creation have been circulating almost since its known beginning. But you're never going to hear that on MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Fox News.
You don't want him to be cyberbullied, Jimmy.
Barrick has been researching coronavirus for 3 decades. So for 30 years, he's been doing this work. Barrick was named in different conspiracy theories. That's according to the Carolina Journal. Conspiracy theories. You mean conspiracy facts?
Huh. But it wasn't a wet market? Do we have a wet market in Raleigh?
Barrick was named in different conspiracy theories after a 2015 paper he co-authored with many other scientists, including one associated with the Wuhan lab, which showed that coronaviruses in bats could directly infect humans rather than evolving in another animal first. This first theory that emerged about the origins of vaccine was that it first appeared in a bat form, a wet market in China. Because that was a lie. They just made it wasn't a theory. That was a lie that was made up by Tony Fauci Tony the Science. It was made up. He gave an $8 million grant to the scientists that he sent to China to find out about the virus. And they originally reported back, yeah, it looks 100% like it came from a lab. And he said, hey, here's $8 million. Say it came from a wet market. And that's what happened. So this wasn't a theory. There wasn't a theory. There was no theory that emerged. So this is why you can't trust corporate newspapers. That wasn't
theory emerged.
It wasn't it wasn't. Yeah, just emerged out of nowhere, like a crack in the earth opened up, and then this theory came out.
Like abiogenesis, life from nothing.
The first theory, no, it was the lie that was pushed by Tony Fauci, by Anthony Collins, the entire medical profession, including the medical journals. You always think medical journals are beyond reproach. No, they're all run by criminals who take bribes. That's why they told you don't do your own research, because they knew if you did do your own research and you looked into it for a second, you would find out that they were lying about everything and that the whole medical system is completely corrupt. Completely. They wouldn't allow you to get ivermectin, which is available over the counter in other countries, including Mexico. They wouldn't allow Walgreens to give it out, or they were threatening them. Yeah, that's how corrupt the United States is. So, and the people in the United States don't know, because the people in the United States are so stupid. They have no idea that when they turn on the TV news or read the Washington Post, or that they're being lied to, that they're being propagandized. They don't know that they're the most propagandized people in the entire world. People in China are propagandized. Do you know the difference? They fucking know it. They know they're being propagandized. People in North Korea are being propagandized. You know the difference? They know it. The people in the United States have no idea, and that's how you know it's really good propaganda, because they don't know it's propaganda.
Yeah.
They don't know they were propaganda. What they don't know propaganda is about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, steroids, early treatments. They were propagandized about masks, the virus, the vaccine, lockdowns, social distances. It was all propaganda, and you bought it. And you still see frickin' people walking around today with masks on.
Right. Well, I think there is a health directive for fat people who work at the airport too.
Yeah, there is, definitely.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a theory. The first theory did not emerge about the origins of
the mouth of a liar.
It didn't emerge. It was a lie concocted by Anthony Fauci. That's why he got a blanket pardon going back to 2014. Oh my God, this guy wrote a paper in 2015 all about it. I wonder why his pardon goes all the way back to 2014. Is that because that's when the United States overthrew the democratically elected government in Ukraine, and we started opening up biolabs like McDonald's over there in Ukraine? You think that's it? So we could create bioweapons under the direction of Tony Fauci, who was the head of the bioweapon program for DARPA, which is the Pentagon.
Wait, Jimmy, Obama said you can't do that no more. Does that mean that Ralph Barrick was doing it and it was still being done in America too?
Yes, that's what that means.
Awesome.
In 2021, Barrick signed onto an open letter that appeared in Science demanding an investigation into the origins of... I demand to find out where the gambling's happening in this casino.
It's more of a dare than a demand.
Yeah.
I dare you to try to investigate this and see where you get to.
That same year, U.S. Senator Rand Paul also pointed the finger at Barrick at a congressional hearing. For years, Dr. Ralph Barrick, a virologist at the United States, has been collaborating with Dr. Shi Zhengli of the Wuhan Virology Institute, sharing his discoveries about how to create superviruses. Rand Paul said that. We've played that video on this show. He said that to Anthony Fauci in the Senate, in a Senate hearing. And then Anthony Fauci lied to him. So that's the third time I caught Anthony Fauci lying to Congress. And of course, he has a blanket pardon now, so he'll never have to face prosecution over it. That's why they pardoned him, because he lied to Congress on 3 different occasions.
Jimmy, you're just cherry picking all the times he lied.
Yeah, just this gain of function research has been funded by the NIH. The implication was clear: intentionally or unwittingly. It was intentional. Ralph Baric was complicit in the creation of SARS-CoV-2, notwithstanding the total lack of evidence.
Wait, so you see the connections to China that they all have? So that's USAID,
yes.
the CIA, DARPA, Fauci, all of them
yes.
have deep relations to China, coming up with bioweapons to soft kill their old people. That's what I think. I think it looks pretty obvious personally.
That's Kurt's personal theory. I cannot confirm or deny that theory. Any theory deserves complete. You should entertain all theories, because the stuff that we already know is true is crazier than any theory I could ever hear someone make up.
Well, you just had 2 and 2 in front of your face too.
Yeah.
Also.
Soon after, Ralph Baric gain of function became a popular online search phrase and included online threats.
Oh, bullying?
As the guy's creating viruses that are killing millions of people, they're worried that that guy who did that might get a threat.
Wow, I had a mandated bioweapon put in me.
Yeah, that's what you had.
Threatening? I feel threatened.
He later told MIT Review, "We never created a super virus." Another lie. That's a figment of Rand Paul's imagination and obviously being used for political advancement. So that's what they do. They try to discredit anybody who's onto them, and they call them conspiracy theories.
Wait, for political advancement? If Rand Paul somehow gets these scumbags the punishment they deserve, put him on
I'll
Mount
make him
Rushmore,
president. Yeah.
Erase the other president. Just put him.
Yeah.
Just Rand Paul. Advance him politically. If anyone that could bring these assholes to justice, please advance them politically.
Listen to how this newspaper reports it, the Carolina Journal. Rand Paul, who also had a beef with Dr. Anthony Fauci. You mean he also exposed Dr. Anthony Fauci for lying to Congress? You mean that kind of a beef? Where he asked him a question and then Anthony Fauci lied to Congress about the dangerous research they were doing? You mean, not research, experiments, crazy, nutty scientist research? So,
Jimmy, this beef is a nothing burger.
Yeah. Former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases had also criticized gain-of-function research, which Baric uses.
I'm sorry, I thought they don't do that. And
yeah, I thought they didn't do that. So this research involves, can you text Malcolm and see if he found that video?
Let me look.
This research involves experiments that alter viruses, or can you Slack them or whatever you guys do?
Yeah.
This research involves experiments that alter viruses or other organisms' genetic makeup to gain new abilities or functions. In viruses, this can mean making them more transmissible or perhaps more deadly, or both, which is exactly what they did.
What? Okay.
I wonder if that had something to do with...
Wonder. In 2014, the federal government put a moratorium on some gain-of-function research, but Baric's work was not banned.
So they didn't go around Obama. Obama's in on it.
That's right. Can you look, Mishan?
He's looking up too right now.
Can you look on Twitter and see if you Rand Paul, Fauci, Baric? So now we know it was invented right here in the United States at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
So we do make things in this country.
Yeah, we can still make stuff. We can make bombs and viruses. Anything that has to do with the with the Pentagon. We can do that. Anything that has to do. We have a death economy in the United States.
Well, not hypersonic missiles. Somehow Iran.
Somehow we can't make hypersonic missiles. Somehow.
Maybe this $1 trillion budget will help us catch up to Iran.
Yeah. So guess what? So, all right. So that's the end of that segment. Here's a new segment. I want to share this with you because it just came out today. Jeffrey Sachs is now being quoted all over social media saying that the 19 virus was created at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He says he's only 99% sure. Now, Jeffrey Sachs was the head of the Lancet study group about where the came from. But I already showed you that the former head of the CDC, Redfield, already said it was Ralph Baric at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, most likely that created this virus. So it wasn't created in Wuhan. It was actually here. And I've had people come to my shows and tell me that. Well, so the problem is they said Barack Obama stopped that gain of function, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Here it
There's
is.
a trick.
It says in 2014, the federal government put a moratorium. Federal government, meaning Barack Obama, put a moratorium on some gain-of-function research, but Barrick's work was not banned.
I mean, how many ways can the government tell you that they hate you and want you to die, and they're going to lie to you at every step of your life, and they're going to do nothing for you but only harm you?
Don't listen to the experts. Don't do your own research. Trust science. Be a moron. Don't think for yourself. Don't ever question authority. Do as the man on the TV says. That's all things I heard from comedians, which makes me embarrassed to be a comedian.
Those are quotes. I know those are quotes, by the way. It sounds like you're being wry. Those are quotes.
Yes. So guess what? Donald Trump today, I'm pretty sure this is today, quote, double check me on the date, he has signed an executive order banning gain-of-function research. It's not research, it's experiments. It's crazy. It's psychopathic research that takes viruses and makes them more deadly and more transmissible. Why would you want to ever do that? Oh, because we want to create bioweapons.
Which I thought you're not supposed to do, but we're not signed on to any Geneva Convention.
So this is today.
Confirmed today.
So here it is today. Today being May 5th.
de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo. Here you go.
The first relates to gain-of-function research. Gain-of-function research is a type of biomedical research where pathogens are adulterated, viruses are adulterated to make them more potent or to change the way that they function. Many people believe that gain-of-function research was one of the key causes of the pandemic that struck us in the last decade. What this executive order does, first of all, it provides powerful new tools to enforce the ban on federal funding for gain-of-function research abroad. It also strengthens other oversight mechanisms related to that issue and creates an overarching strategy to ensure that biomedical research in general is being conducted safely and in a way that ultimately protects human health more.
It's a big deal. It could have been that we wouldn't have had the problem we had.
A lot of people say that, sir.
If we had this done earlier. Thank you.
So there you have it. So finally, we're stopping the crazy bioweapons, psychopathic, crazy scientists experiments. It's not research. There's experiments trying to figure out how to make stuff more deadly so that the Pentagon can then use it as a weapon. That's why Fauci was the guy funding this, because he was the head of the bioweapons division of DARPA, which is the Pentagon. And when did he get that job? Right after 9/11. That's why Fauci was the highest paid guy in all of government, and that's also why he got a blanket pardon going back to 2014, because the people who actually run this country are not politicians. The people who run this country are the donors, the people at the Pentagon, the war machine, Wall Street. Those are the people of Big Pharma. Those are the people who actually run this country. And when you see a session of Congress, those politicians aren't there doing the bidding of workers or students or voters or citizens or the elderly. They're doing the bidding of the people who actually run this country, the owners, as George Carlin put it, the owners of this country. And there's only a handful of them. There's only a handful of billionaires that own all the media. Like 15 billionaires have 6 companies that run every movie, TV show, radio show, newspaper in the country. So
wait, he goes, many people believe it was this research that caused. That really sticks in my craw a little bit, Jimmy. You know what would be a great thing for Trump to do? Sign one of your world famous executive orders to declassify everything relating to that, and then arrest the people responsible for the crime and give them one of those trials we gave Saddam and give them the same treatment we gave Saddam. That would be the right thing to do, because what they're doing right now is Trump was there when we pushed this stupid. He just learned about this just now. So, oh great, you signed it now after the soft kills were done. That's great. Is anybody going to be brought to justice for it? No.
So no, nothing from.
No, not yet.
Okay, so go to Steph for a second.
Kayla Pollock was one of millions coerced and deceived into getting the deadly shots when they were mandated in 2021.
Could you tell us why you decided to get the...
Basically, a lot of it had to do with the things I was hearing on TV. So there was a lot of fear just being screamed at me by not just the TV, but also, like, you know, when you hear, like, the WHO is on TV telling you that this is like a deadly pandemic and, you know, people with immune disorders are gonna, you know, die from COVID more likely than other people. You know, I was hearing about that, and my dad was dying in long-term care at the time. In order to go see him, I needed the shots. In order to go to work, I needed the shots.
A week after receiving the Moderna booster shot, she fell to the floor and was paralyzed for 30 minutes. Another episode happened a week later, and shortly after that, she became paralyzed from the neck down. The first doctor told her that this was something that often happens to people when they're upset, and that it was all in her head.
He told me that this was something that often happens to people when they're upset, and that this was in my head. And the good news was that I would get better because I was essentially having an episode that was some sort of psychotic. I asked him when I would get better, and he said, you know, it's up to you, really.
A second doctor was honest with her, but had to keep it hidden.
The second diagnosis, a doctor came to me and he whispered in my ear and he said, I think there's something seriously wrong with you. I do not think you're faking. He said, I have a neurologist or a radiologist who's willing to read your report at home. If you go into the scanner right now, I can get that done.
They found a massive lesion on her spine, and the doctor told her it was most likely caused by the and that he's seen many cases just like it.
Most likely it's going to be probably, if I'm using my gut impression here, from the...
So other people had it?
Many people. Many?
Kayla spent several months in the hospital's rehabilitation center, where the staff offered her medical-assisted suicide on 2 occasions, which is the only assistance the medical system seems to offer.
Rehab didn't do a whole lot. When I was sent home from rehab, I was told that I'd be getting a lot of personal support hours, and I got home from rehab, and for 4 days straight, nobody came.
If this story is disturbing to you, then it means you still have a heart, and your human soul has managed to survive these dark days. The trauma much for many who have disassociated into cold indifference and fail to fully recognize the crimes that are being committed against all of humanity. Celia Farber wrote that what has happened and is happening is by far the worst crime ever committed, worse than the atomic bombs and all wars combined. We all struggle to fight off the feeling that in some way we have already died. And the daily challenge is not to disassociate, but to bear witness, since every person still alive now is either a victim of the shots or a witness. And we should be prepared for these criminals to try this again. The mainstream media is now talking about strange cases of the measles.
The highly infectious measles virus is spreading across more of the country, including in Florida, where a concerning outbreak is growing. And the latest CDC data shows more than 30 cases nationwide this year across more than a dozen states.
Is there something about this year that is making people more vulnerable to the measles right now?
Yeah, it's a combination of people not getting their scheduled during the pandemic and then just not necessarily getting to the doctor's office.
If you are looking for ways to help, Veterans for Freedom have launched a Give, Send, Go for Kayla to raise funds for a service dog. Greg Reese reporting.
Campaign to attack the Great Barrington Declaration last October.
Okay, hold on. You say there's an updated keynote from Malcolm?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you want to go to it?
Yeah, I did. But go to stuff for a second.
All right. But
and so here's the email about their plan to smear him. It says, let me read it to you. It says, "Hi, Tony and Cliff. This proposal from the 3 fringe epidemiologists, they called Dr. Bhattacharya and the 2 other, I think I'm going to show you in a second, here's the 3 fringe. Dr. Martin Kulldorff, professor of medicine at Harvard University, Dr. Sunetra Gupta, professor at Oxford University, and Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, a professor at Stanford University. They called them fringe." So it says, "This proposal from 3 fringe epidemiologists who met with the secretary seems to be getting a lot of attention, and even a co-signature from Nobel Prize winner Mike something at Stanford. There needs to be a quick and devastating published takedown of its premises. I don't see anything like that online yet. Is it underway? Why would you need to have a quick and devastating takedown? Why wouldn't you have let's have a debate about this and see what the science should be?" Because it was never about science. Tony Fauci's a criminal and a liar and a criminal liar. And so is Francis Collins at the NIH. So is Walensky over at the CDC. They're all criminals and they're all liars. And so there they are. I asked them about this. Why did they do this to you? And this is from the Jimmy Dore show. Watch this. And so, Dr. Bhattacharya, why would Anthony Fauci and the head of the NIH not want to have this discussion? Instead, why do you think they would bypass the real debate and go right to slandering you and your work?
I mean, we posed an enormous problem for them, Jimmy. The problem is that they wanted to create this illusion that all the scientists in the world, all the doctors in the world agreed with this lockdown policy. They wanted it was basically a propaganda campaign. They wanted to create that tell the public, no, we are the science. Rather than facing the inconvenient fact that many scientists disagreed with them. The Great Barrington Declaration, when we wrote it, the three of me, Martin, and then Sunetra Gupta of Oxford University, we posed an enormous problem for them because they couldn't simply just really dismiss us as fringe. They wanted to, and you can see that they did.
They did.
The reason is simple. It's like if there are prominent scientists who disagree with them, well, that must mean there's lots of other scientists that disagree with them as well. In fact, there were thousands, tens of thousands of scientists and doctors signed on. And that's why we posed a problem. Not because of the science. They can't defend the science of the lockdown, but because of the PR.
So there you go. So now that guy's the head of the NIH, former guest on the Jimmy Dore show. Makes me very proud. We've got 3 people who've been former guests on the Jimmy Dore show who are now in the top of the Trump administration. We have Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., and now Jay Bhattacharya. So that's how they tried to call them fringe. They tried to call them fringe. And this person's from the Harvard University. That person's from Oxford. And the guy who's now going to be the head of the NIH, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, is a professor at Stanford Medical School, a physician, epidemiologist, health economist, and a public health policy expert. At the time of the writing of the declaration, the declaration had 890,000 signatories, of which approximately 60,000 are medical practitioners and public health scientists from across the world. So when they did the Great Barrington Declaration, they got 60,000 doctors and medical practitioners and public health scientists to sign it. I had someone who used to work for this show say, "Oh, really, Jimmy? Somehow it's propaganda, but every doctor in the world's going along with it." Well, they weren't going along with it. They were being suppressed and they were being censored, and you didn't hear about it because they were being suppressed and censored. So there it is. That was the Great Barrington Declaration, which he was an author of, which was the right way to handle. You don't lock people down. There was no science for masks. You do targeted protection of the people who are vulnerable, just like you do with the flu. Because had a survival rate of 99.5%. Less than 0.5% of people died from, and those people average age 82 years old. And most of them had three or four more comorbidities. So it was never really a threat to healthy people. And the fact that they're still pushing the boosters, a lot of people say is malpractice. Now, of course, the CDC and the FDA say it's fantastic science, even though the top two people at the FDA in charge of resigned over the boosters. I'm not allowed to say that's bad because YouTube will give me a strike. I have to say that the FDA and the CDC say the boosters are fantastic. Here, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, he says, so now I know what it feels like to be the subject of a propaganda attack by my own government. Discussion and engagement would have been better. So that's a top doctor, top scientist at Stanford University who got it right. And of course, the government and the media slandered him and smeared him to discredit him. Then they suppressed him and then they censored him. And now he's the head of the NIH. So that's thrilling. So if for no other reason, no matter what, we might be in World War III pretty soon. Seems like Joe Biden is trying his hardest, or the people who are in his administration. Joe Biden's demented and he doesn't know where he is. But Antony Blinken and those people are doing it. And who knows? Who knows? Trump just appointed a guy today to be the special envoy to Ukraine. Last year, he was all on board for the Ukraine war and ramping it up. So you don't know what's going to happen. But this makes me, there's one bright spot. This, Bobby Tulsi, now totally don't understand why she flipped on Israel, but she did. But she's definitely going to be the best DNI that we've had in a long time. So, you want to hear what else he had to say about this whole campaign smear? Did he wear the same suit and my suit? Yeah, he's wearing the same suit coat. And so, same suit coat. There it is. Look at that.
HHS commissioned a public relations firm named Forrest Marshburg in September of 2020, and then spent almost $1 billion over the course of the Biden administration, essentially to propagandize the American public. Their themes were the main goal was to tell people that if you don't get the vaccine, you are unclean. And they fear-mongered about the risk to kids. They pushed forward false ideas about natural immunity, where they said essentially denied its existence. They did everything they possibly could to tell you about the benefits of the never once told you about the potential harms, right? So, for instance, the side effects for myocarditis for young men, as best I can tell, never came up once in any of their ads. No, and they put these ads into like the most vulnerable populations. It essentially was $1 billion spent by the taxpayer to propagandize the American people.
So that's your new head of the NIH. What a difference! What a difference! He is a trained physician economist. Is now he has now been confirmed. No, he hasn't been confirmed, but it's confirmed that Trump is nominating him. So this was from yesterday. So he's not the presumptive favorite. He's actually been selected by President Donald Trump as the next director of the National Institutes of Health. So it goes HHS, which is going to be Bobby RFK Jr., and then underneath it's going to be this guy at the NIH. And then there'll be the FDA and the CDC. Bhattacharya met this week with Robert F. Kennedy, blah, blah, blah. Nearly a $50 billion agency that oversees the nation's biomedical research. But that's almost as much money as we give to Ukraine in a weekend. Huh. Bhattacharya has called for shifting the agency's focus toward funding more innovative research and reducing the influence of some of its long-serving career officials. I'm with you on that. Bhattacharya emerged as a prominent critic of the federal government's in response, co-writing the Great Barrington Declaration that called for rolling back coronavirus-related shutdowns while keeping focused protections for vulnerable populations such as older Americans. And he was right about that. Turns out he was 100% right. You know who was wrong? The media, Rachel Maddow, everybody who used to be who used to work on this show, everybody else on Facebook, everybody in Hollywood, everybody in the government, everybody else. They're all wrong. But now we know it wasn't just one or two guys who got it right. It was 60,000 doctors and health professionals signed on to that. The proposal won support from Republican politicians and some Americans eager to resume daily life, but was rebuked by public health experts. There are people still clinging to masks. So that just goes to show you this is an emotional thing. People still want to be afraid of. They're still clinging to masks. There are people still getting their boosters, which shows you that this is emotional. This isn't about logic or facts or we're the smart people. We're the liberals. We're smart. The conservatives are the dummies. It's not about it. It's emotional. It has nothing to do with science. It has nothing to do with facts or evidence-based science. Nothing. It just has to do with your emotions. They are emotional children. But, so the proposal won, so, and blah, 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 blah. Yep. Bhattacharya has called for rolling back the power of some of the 27 institutes and centers that constitute NIH, saying that some, I know comedians who still wear masks in comedy clubs. They take it off right before they go on stage, which they do that, I guess, just to prove that they're fucking crazy. So you're going to wear a mask, except when you go up and you have 200 people breathing right at you. And then when you're away from the 200 people breathing right at you, you're going to put your mask right back on. Bhattacharya has called for rolling back the power of some of the 27 institutes and centers that constitute NIH, saying that some career civil servants wrongly shaped national policies at the height of the pandemic and did not tolerate dissent. Science is all about dissent. NIH has also been investigated by lawmakers in the wake of the pandemic, including by Republicans who say the agency's leaders mismanaged the virus response and have demanded there's going to be nothing happening to anybody. Just so you know, I don't care who's in charge. Nothing's going to happen to Anthony Fauci. They already spent $15 million on security for him. Why? Because he did the bidding of the Pentagon, the military-industrial complex, and Big Pharma. That guy is protected. Fauci and other current and former NIH officials, if you lie at the behest of the establishment, there is never... Look at Peter Hotez. Look at Rachel Maddow. These are some of the world-class heavyweight champion liars. Anthony Fauci. Antony Blinken. Heavyweight champion liars. Nothing's ever going to happen to them because they're lying at the behest of the powerful. And then you would need someone more powerful to come after them. There is no one more powerful than Big Pharma and the Pentagon, military-industrial complex. There's nobody more powerful than that. So that's why, though, nothing will ever happen. Fauci and other current and former NIH officials have defended their pandemic decisions, and they have the people in the media to back them up because they're bought by the same people who bought Fauci. So that's why when you turn on the media, they still say Fauci was right. I still have fucking morons in my DMs, Hollywood assholes, upset that I'm criticizing Fauci because they don't know a fucking thing. The agency's broader response saying that federal leaders generally did the best that they could. They did not. As we just showed you, they smeared people who had a better idea. They slandered people. They did a devastating takedown. Trump on, and they say, oh, and that much of the criticism is second guessing. No, they were out in front of it. I just showed you how Jay Bhattacharya and the Great Barrington Declaration, they were way out in front on this. Fauci and other current and former NIH officials have defended that we already did this. Trump on Friday night announced a flurry of other top healthcare appointments, including McCarry, is that Marty McCarry, as his planned FDA commissioner. I think that's good. Weldon as his planned CDC director. Not so sure about Weldon. And Janet Nushiwa, a family and emergency medicine physician. Yeah, I'm not. She did change her tune. She got completely wrong. She was for shutting people up who were dissenting. But then at some point she got religion and she switched. Those positions are also subject to Senate confirmation. Bhattacharya and Makari collaborated on a blueprint for a proposed commission to investigate the nation's coronavirus response. Well, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think they're going to have a hard enough time getting anything done because the entire establishment's going to be opposing people like Jay Bhattacharya, Bobby Kennedy. They're going to be completely opposing them. And what do I mean by the establishment? I mean by all the Republicans and Democrats in Congress and in the Senate, all the people who are permanently inside the government, the media, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's take a break and we'll bring out our guest, Max Blumenthal. Hey, do you like free stuff? Well, you're in luck because Buy Optimizer's Black Friday deal starts now. And they're giving away free gifts with purchase. That's right. I have an exclusive advance invite to Buy Optimizer's Black Friday deal for the entire month of November. This is their best sale of the entire year. If you're feeling stressed out or haven't been sleeping well lately, you're not alone. You might not be able to change all the chaos out there, but you can start supplementing with one key nutrient to improve your sleep quality as well as over 600 other biochemical reactions in your body. Magnesium Breakthrough. Now, I take magnesium. It's the only product I've found that has all the magnesium forms in one convenient bottle. You'll open less bottles, spend less money, and still get the top 7 forms of magnesium for better sleep, manage stress, balance hormones, improve mood, feel refreshed, all in one bottle. When you get all 7 critical forms of magnesium, pretty much every function in your body gets upgraded. Right now, for the entire month of November, Buy Optimizers, the makers of Magnesium Breakthrough, are having a Black Friday blowout sale on all their products. I love blowout sales. I love when they blow things out. All month long, you will get discounts with my unique code, plus access up to $100 in free gifts with purchase. This is the best time to stock up and take advantage of all the free extras you're going to get. You can only get this exclusive through my link, special for my audience. You won't find this on Amazon. You won't. Or even on the company website. Yeah, that's right. Go to buyoptimizers.com/Jimmy. and use code Jimmy to get your discount and free gifts today. And one last thing, you should know all Buy Optimizers supplements are best in class. If for some reason you feel differently, you can get a full refund up to 1 year after you purchased it, no questions asked. Come on. Again, the link to go to right now for the exclusive deal is Jimmy. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm going to be doing this October 26th at 2 p.m. in Lower Manhattan. There's our friend Jose Vega. And other powerful activists around the country are going to join Jose and Diane Sayre to build a peace chorus against the ghouls of war. Secure your seat on October 26th at VegasSayrePeaceFund.org. VegasSayrePeaceFund.org. I'll see you there. I'll be there. Now joining us is Diane Sayre. She's an independent candidate for United States Senate from New York, and she's challenging incumbent Democrat Kirsten Gillibrand. In 2012 and 2014, she ran for the U.S. House of Representatives in New Jersey's 5th Congressional District in the Democratic primary, calling for the impeachment of then-President Barack Obama. She also challenged Chuck Schumer for the New York Senate seat in 2022. Welcome back to the show, Diane Sayre. Hi, Diane.
Hi, thanks very much.
So where is this going to be held? Do you know?
Yes, but there's a lot of us, including you, who are on various Ukrainian hit lists. So people have to sign up and get tickets.
Oh, okay. So you want to keep
they get the address.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's what that's
right.
about?
Lower Manhattan. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
And who else is going to be on that bill?
Well, as you said yourself, Jose Vega, Scott Ritter, Dennis Fritz of the Eisenhower Media Group, who was at the Pentagon for 28 years, Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, who was Colin Powell's chief of staff, I believe we're going to have participation from some of the doctors who've just been in Gaza, actually, either by video or in person. I know some of them are coming. Helga Zepp-LaRouche will have a video, Ray McGovern by video. It's quite a few of retired military and intelligence. And I think, as Dennis Fritz had said on a call with me and Jose, he said, we really want you to use us. We want you to quote us. We want to give your campaigns authority to stop this war drive.
Okay, well, hopefully. So that's how.
And also Russ Dobular.
Russ Dobular from Due
Dissidence. Yes, how could I forget?
So that's quite a power-packed panel. Say that 3 times fast.
Power-packed panel.
Pick a pack of power-packed panels. October, that's this Saturday. That's 2 p.m. New York City time, October 26th, this Saturday, Lower Manhattan. Go to vegaserpeacefund.org and get your tickets. All right.
Yeah.
How much are tickets?
$50.
Okay.
But people can give more if they want to. We need it. It's a joint campaign fund, so it helps us campaign. It also helps cover the cost of the event. And the funds are split 50-50 if people are wondering, unless you're violating your legal limit to one or the other.
Okay. All right. So tell me about your campaign. You were able to get on the ballot in New York when the Green Party wasn't. How'd you pull that off?
Well, you know, I knew it was going to be very tough when I ran against Schumer. A lot of people told me I should just give up when we found out it was going to be 45,000 signatures and not 15,000 as it had been before. And I said, well, we're going to have to build a real network of actual real people in the real world. I had an advantage coming from working with LaRouche on 8 different presidential campaigns because we had a reservoir of people who had gotten him on the ballot 20 years earlier and remembered how nasty the state of New York is and all of the rules. And we had about 200 volunteers. Our campaigns, mine and Jose's, did not pay people to gather signatures. I found that to be a hazard. Every time you hire people, they seem to screw you over. And I know that happened to the Kennedy campaign. I think they ended up hiring a firm that was run by the DNC and fraudulently gathered petition signatures.
Right, so they could get him disqualified. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they infiltrated his campaign, is what they did, and tried to screw him up from inside. That's the playbook. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your big issue is what is your problem with war? War is a good makes money for people, jobs. The only thing we make in the United States are bombs and weapons, right? So what are you against? Are you against jobs?
And yeah, right. And frankly, we don't do them that well because I think it's demoralizing to just produce stuff that's going to kill people. It's not like trying to get a human being safely to the moon where you have a super duper high standard when everything gets done for the sake of raising money or making money. I think our B-35 bombers, something like 18 of them crashed. So we're producing or got lost or had issues. We're producing a lot of stuff, and it's not very high quality, but it is killing a lot of people. And I think that's a bad thing. I don't think we should be killing people all over the world. And we seem to have equal opportunity killing. You know, some people say, oh, we're helping all those people overseas and we should be helping people at home. Well, we're killing people overseas and we're killing people at home, and it's not a good arrangement.
So, I mean, Putin invaded Ukraine, Diane. What are we supposed to do? Not give him $400 billion?
Yeah, right. Actually, I think we used his red lines as a roadmap for how to provoke him to invade Ukraine. And, you know, I did an interview 2 years ago with NPR out of Rochester. I just did it again this year. The host was vehemently pro-Ukrainian, anti-Russian. But 2 years ago, he said, I saw you did a Facebook post where you said Putin was not going to invade Ukraine, and then you deleted it. And I said, yeah, I guess I underestimated how badly we wanted that war. And then he just exploded. He said, how could you say that? And because what did Putin say in December of 2021? He said, Ukraine cannot join NATO. We can't have nuclear weapons on our border. And he said, Russia will not tolerate ethnic cleansing of the Russian-speaking people in the Donbass. So then what do? We get the Azov battalion and all these Nazi-infested, right, to march right up to the border of the Donbass. And I kept wondering, how is it that Biden can say he's going to invade on this day? Remember that? He kept saying it's going to be February 22nd or he kept naming a date. And I thought, that's odd. How do we know that? Well, because that was the day that we started shelling Donetsk. I think we dropped, or NATO or whatever it is, dropped 1,600 shells on Donetsk in one day. And then Russia launched the special military operation. And then, as you know, what everyone leaves out is in less than a month, there were peace talks. And they were going to end the war, and they were going to end the fighting, and all these people would still be alive. And Boris Johnson flew over there and said, oh, no, don't stop fighting. Don't stop. We want you to die so we can destroy Russia.
So that was the miscalculation of the West, was that they thought that Russia was weaker than it ever was. In fact, Joe Biden joked about, I think about 12 years ago, there was a video I just saw of him joking, saying, oh, yeah, Russia's going to go try to get economic assistance from China. Go ahead. Why don't you try to go to Iran, too? And he's making jokes about it. Well, that's exactly what has happened. So now China and Russia are closer than ever, which everyone has warned against that. Everyone's from Henry Kissinger to Noam Chomsky and everybody in between has said that would be the worst outcome for the United States. And that's exactly what the neocon and Joe Biden have done. All the stuff they claimed Donald Trump was going to do, they did. They made the world less safe. They warmongered. They pushed our allies away from us and closer to each other.
Right. I don't even think that's so bad. I mean, I don't think it's bad for China and Russia to get along with each other. They're two nuclear powers.
Right, I agree. Well, it's bad for the economic hitmen in the West, that's what I mean. It's
right.
Which is what this war is all about. This war has always been about. They thought they were going to be able to balkanize Russia and can chop it up and give it to BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard, and that's what just like they're doing to Ukraine. By the way, 50% of its farmland has already been sold off. So that's the whole point. And so, how do you get through to people? What do you have a special trick? Because I can't. The people who they think they're informed because they read the New York Times and the Washington Post or the Boston Globe or because they watch CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, they think they're informed, and it's hard. I do it through humor on stage. How do you do it?
Well, humor is definitely important. I would say irony. And sometimes you just have to be able to laugh because the things people say are so patently absurd, like when we were trying to get signatures. And by the way, I found this time much harder to get the signatures because when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was running independent before he withdrew so that Kamala wouldn't win to endorse Trump, people, particularly in Manhattan, you'd get this hysterical, I can't sign for an independent because that means that Trump is going to, it was really bizarre. Or they were defending Biden and they'd say, well, the economy is so great. I mean, and literally there'd be a homeless person slumped over on the street by their feet. And they were telling you what wonders Biden has done for the economy. So when people are in that kind of deluded fantasy world, it is hard to get through. However, the other place we petitioned was in front of grocery stores. And of course, people are in sticker shock when they come out of the grocery store. They're saying, I used to get 5 bags of groceries for $200. Now I have this one little teensy bag. I had people tell me they could no longer afford to buy meat. People saying they had to exchange their prescription. They had to choose between food and their prescription medication. So people are feeling it. I think the worst thing is that they're very cynical and downtrodden and feel like the system is rigged and that they're not sure they have a voice.
And so, that was pretty smart to go out in front of grocery stores. That's a good tactic there. And so, how are you finding? Are you getting a lot of support? How's it going?
It's really hard to tell. We get shadow banned. Jose's finding it too. He had a lot more followers on X than I did, but once he became a candidate, even though he would do these huge interventions and get a zillion new followers, somehow the total number wouldn't go up. And then I got a notice saying, would you like to follow Jose Vega? And I thought, well, I'm already following him. So I realized what they do is they get rid of your earlier followers. So you can never...
Yeah, just like YouTube. YouTube takes away our subscribers all the time.
Right.
So we can't grow like we're supposed to. And so that's a trick of social media is they take away your followers, and they also take away my likes. No matter what I post I like on Twitter, if I come back to it a day later, that like is gone. So,
yeah, I saw that. Colonel Wilkerson had done something on TikTok where he said every time he dealt with the Israeli military, they always lied.
Yes.
And I tried to hit the like button, and it said, this action is not available or something. It's really, but I do want to say one thing, if you don't mind, because the Russians said something, and I think Americans would be really shocked. They said, we know that the Americans think that everything in the world revolves around who's going to be the next president of the United States. But actually, far more important than the U.S. election is the BRICS summit, which is happening October 22nd to 24th in Kazan, Russia. And I forget all the figures, but these nations, now that they have 4 more nations, they control something like 71% of the world's, I don't know if it's grain or oil or steel, but they have more than half the market on most of the major commodities that we need. And they're meeting. And I think that's one reason they want to blow up Iran. I think that's a reason why they want to really get Israel to start a war with Iran, because Iran is one of the new members of the BRICS.
That makes sense. Donald Trump actually said something sensible about Iran the other day. Did you see that?
What did he say?
He said that he said something like we can't. What did he say? Yeah, we can't even run our own country. We shouldn't try to run Iran, right? We shouldn't try to pick their. Yeah, it was something like that. I'd have to. I can't believe I didn't. Why? Yeah. Why am I not covering that? That should be covered today. What the hell? Yeah, Melga, when you get that ready, let's do that. That's something that's interesting. Let's do that. I don't know why I didn't cover that. Okay, well, Diane, yeah, people don't know about BRICS because they're not told about it in the United States. They're not. It's amazing. Americans are the most propagandized people in the world by far. At least people in China know they're being propagandized. People in America think they're getting the news. That's the difference.
Well, the BRICS is only about 2/3 of the world's population. Why would anybody want to know about what they're doing? I mean, they're not significant. India only has 1.4 billion people. China, another 1.4 billion people. Why should we notice what they're doing? We have 4% of the world's population.
And 25% of the world's incarcerated population. So, well, I wish you luck. And I'll see you. I guess I'll see you on Saturday.
Yes, and I really want to encourage everybody out there to come join us. We're doing this because, I've been trying to figure out, most Americans don't want to be at war all the time. And frankly, in spite of the stupid propaganda, most Americans don't support genocide in Gaza. But the politicians seem not to be listening. So how do we break out? And there's going to be a huge amount of music. I direct a chorus. And I'm going to play the trombone at the beginning of the program, actually, a brass quintet and a string quartet. It's going to be, I think, very beautiful and very powerful, and people don't want to miss it.
Okay, I agree. All right, I'll see you there Saturday, Lower Manhattan. Yes. Go to WeAreChange, peacefund.org. and support people who are fighting for peace. That sounds like a contradiction, right? Yeah, that's always been a pet issue of mine. The wars, our country's ending. We're an end-stage republic, and we're ending the way all empires end. We're overextending ourselves militarily while we let our own people starve. We have a hurricane here. Hey, here's $700, but you have to apply for it. And it's the craziest thing. And people defend it. It's to watch people who are voting for Democrats and voting for Kamala Harris do the mental gymnastics necessary they still feel like they're fighting some kind of moral war against MAGA and Donald Trump. Donald Trump is less of a monster than Joe Biden. And there's just no doubt about that. Joe Biden's been a monster his entire career. He's been anti-worker. He's been anti-everything. He's been pro-Wall Street, pro-war. And there isn't a war he didn't like.
Right. But now you have Dick Cheney.
Right.
Come on. Everybody loved Cheney.
Yeah.
I want him back in the White House. That's going to be great.
Yeah. It is really pathetic to see people who consider themselves, liberal, twist themselves in pretzels to vote for Kamala Harris because we're fighting MAGA. It's the most, it's the dumbest thing I've seen in a long time. But there was Russiagate, there's Ukraine, there's a lot of dumb things people can embrace. But anyway, all right. Anything you'd like to say before we say goodbye, Diane?
No, thanks very much for having me. Everyone should come on Saturday, and I look forward to seeing you there and seeing everybody there.
Okay, see you then. All right, Diane, Sarah, everybody, see you Saturday.
Bye.
Thank you.
Over to Steph. Hey, here's a shocker. More bad news about how they handled, the thing they invented in the lab in Wuhan with Fauci. Sounds damaged children's eyesight, with 1 in 3 now short-sighted. New study finds.
Oh my God.
Sounds damaged children's eyesight. Myopia tripled between 1990 and 2023. Tripled. Myopia, that's nearsightedness, right? Hey Siri, what's myopia? It causes you to see near objects clearly and far objects unclearly. It's also known as nearsightedness. Yeah. Myopia tripled between 1990 and 2023, and a notable uptick following the pandemic. While short-sightedness among children in Japan has reached 85%, in the UK, the figure remains relatively low at 15%. Between 1990 and 2019, the study estimated that the global prevalence of myopia increased 5.34%. From 2020, when the pandemic broke out, to 2023, researchers found an increase of 6.15%. With outdoor activity reduced and screen time increased, many have raised concerns on how lockdowns affect eye health. I'm going to guess that doesn't help. Is there anything lockdowns help? It helps suicide rates go up. It helps nearsightedness rates go up. It helps depression rates go up. It helps obesity go up. Recent concerns have been raised about the potential negative impact of prolonged lockdowns on eye health, specifically myopia. This is due to the decrease in outdoor activities and increase in screen time that may result from extended periods of staying indoors. No kidding. Chagrin. More bad news for your kids. Who saw this coming? I had people attack me. People have known me all my life on social media because I had people do videos about it. When I said they should open the schools. When I said they should open the schools, which now everybody agrees they should have.
But we just didn't have all the facts.
Yeah.
We didn't have all the information,
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Myopia is expected to become significantly more prevalent by 2050. The rate is expected to rise from an estimated 36 to 40% of children and adolescents worldwide, totaling 740 million young people, including more than half of teenagers. Since 1990, the prevalence of myopia has shot up from 24 to 30. This article is repetitive. Children in East Asia. Okay, I got it. All right. I got it. Myopia is more common in girls and young women. They say this is because they are less likely to be doing outdoor activities at school and home in their early years, and because their physical development starts earlier. The data was drawn from a study of more than 5 million children and teenagers from 50 countries. Myopia tends to develop during a child's early years when eyesight is more susceptible to external factors. Younger students are generally more susceptible and vulnerable to environmental factors compared with adults. This is particularly significant for preschool children as they are in a critical period of visual development characterized by high plasticity. The age at which a child begins their education is believed to impact whether they suffer from myopia. Countries where children begin their education at a young age, such as Singapore and Hong Kong, are likely to have a higher prevalence of myopia because children spend more time focusing on books and screens. Professor Carol Sikora says, criminalizing so much outdoor activity for millions of children was always going to have horrific consequences. Forcing them in front of a television and laptops for months and months, a catastrophic policy mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Here's what yours truly says. Not a mistake. There was never any science behind the lockdowns. Not a single study. We were experimented on by the establishment, and we were the guinea pigs. If you questioned any of it, you were pilloried, ostracized, called right-wing and anti-science. Still, most people aren't upset or demanding accountability. Still, most people who call themselves anti-establishment truth tellers and rebels are afraid to speak out. Especially comedians who are supposed to be on the forefront of questioning the government, pharma, corporate media, corrupt regulatory agencies, and status quo, are still too cowardly to say something or at least apologize to the people they demonized for doing what they are supposed to do. Question authority and do your own research. I see those comedians who used to go on stage and shame audiences for doing your own research and called them stupid and backwards and morons. They never apologize. They'll never ever gonna apologize. Over to Steph.
All right.